Hello everyone, welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Sunday, the 22nd of March, 2026. I'm CareyHolzman, and today a new mini PC review. This one is their budget line, but it's actually somewhere between the high end of budget and the low end of mid PC. In fact, I would say it's actually mid PC in specs and budget in price, and we're going to take a look at it today. And there are various configurations, both from Intel and AMD, available on this particular model. We're going to dig in a little bit to that. You can see it's still shrink wrapped here, so we'll do the full unboxing, plug it in for the very first time, and experience it in real life and in real time with no scripts, no rehearsals, and no talking points. Just me doing my job as a professional computer technician to evaluate a new piece of hardware for a potential customer that will pretend as you, and whether or not I can recommend it or at least explain it to you so you can decide for yourselves. With that, let me say hello to everybody. Thank you for joining us, and a shout out to our friend Buster, Peter Laycock, as well as Mark Gaines for their Amazon gift cards in lieu of super chats to support us here on the channel. And all of our friends in green, thank you for supporting us here as well. And for anybody else, welcome in. We love interacting with our live audience. We only ask that you're kind. If you're trying to be a fire starter or you're being rude, we'll just ban you from the channel, which is totally unnecessary because it's a lot more fun when you're a part of it instead of working against it. But hey, to each their own, and we can't control what people say or do in the chat room. We hope they make good and responsible adult behaviors, but otherwise we have a remedy for it if they don't. But if you feel like you are a nice person and you'd like to be part of a nice community, we would love to have you join us during our live chat today. Just pop in and say hello. Tell us where you're from. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to do that. But if you do that, just watch what happens as a response. You've got friends waiting to be made that you don't even know about. And ignorance is bliss. A lot of times it's when we go without something we used to have that we feel sadness. So why are you waiting? Come on in, say hello. It's always helpful to tell us where you're watching from, but you don't have to do that. And we'd love to have other friendly individuals from all over the world join us in our community during our live videos. We're not like regular edited, polished, scripted, controlled, and manipulated YouTube videos. This is real life. And if you're an actual real life viewer, well, it just seems like those two things should go together, doesn't it? A shout out to our good friends over at VIP-URCDKEY. As a real professional computer technician, I am responsible and held accountable for the work customers pay me to do, and held to a legal standard that I can be financially punished if I don't follow the rules. And one of the challenges we have in the professional world of computer sales, repair, and upgrades, or any IT support, is where we source parts from that are reliable, that have valid warranties, and that includes where we buy our operating systems, because Microsoft, they'll charge you 90% more than pretty much, anywhere you could buy it online for the most part. But some of the online sellers are sketchy. Some of the online sellers give you no support. They just it's like buying at a swap meet or a garage sale. You never see that person again. They take the money and run. So I had to do some research to find a legitimate Microsoft Office and Microsoft Windows key seller that was affordable, reliable, supportive, and sold a legitimate product. It's not an easy task online. There's so many bad sellers. So when I tell you and I share with you this information, this is not typically information people in my line of work will give away. There's no reason for me to hand this information out. It can only work against me in the sense that if you want to compete against me, I can't get a lower price than you can, but you can't get a lower price than I can if you're buying from the same place as I'm buying. And so it makes competition even tougher when I'm just handing you answers to some of the difficult business questions, such as sourcing materials. However, I don't really care much with regards to competition, because I believe that the people that hire me know that my experience in this industry and my skills speak for themselves. And I also want to make sure that I take care of my viewers. So there's a company that I work with here. They're called VIP-URCDKEY. And if you look below any of my live videos, you will notice there's something called video notes. And let me show it to you here. We'll cut away to this. This is a previous video I've done. And if we scroll down just a bit below, you'll see the date or the number of views. And then it says more. When we click on more, that's the video description, the video notes that contains all the links for everything we talked about in that video, including the links for buying the Windows Office and, the Microsoft Windows and Microsoft Office license key. So for example, if we click on this Windows 11 Pro, it takes us right to that site and we hit the Buy Now button. And you'll notice the price there is a little higher, $33, $34 is what it says. And then it wants you to sign in with an account, just like Amazon would or Newegg. It's the same thing. So you create your own account there. It's free. If you've already got one, then sign in. And then you're going to enter, if you want to save money, enter the coupon code of Carey right there where it offers you the option for coupon code, and watch the price change. And it should go down to like 25 bucks. And then if everything looks good, submit your order, and that's where you go through your payment options. And one thing that I require is the ability to pay with PayPal. So PayPal right there is the first option, then Visa, Google Pay, and then there's Mint down below. So that first option is what I always choose for PayPal. And then I hit the Buy Now button, and that takes you through the payment process. You will then receive an email that has a link for you to download the product, although you can provide your own, provided you download the right product. They're going to make sure you're getting it directly from Microsoft. It's not coming from some third-party BitTorrent or pirate site, because you never know what you're getting. But because these are real, legitimate Microsoft license keys, you can download the ISOs on your own from Microsoft, or if you already have them, so long as they align with, Windows Pro to a Windows Pro key, Windows Home to a Windows Home key, that sort of thing. But if you don't know where to get the installer file, it's included in the email, the instructions on how to acquire that from Microsoft. There's a link, you click on it, you download it. The other thing it contains is your product key. Now, all this information will be stored in your purchase history with the account you created online. So at any point in the future, from now until, well, whichever one of you dies first, that information will remain forever. So if you ever want to go back for any reason to reestablish that download link or your product key, you can go back in your purchase history no differently than Amazon or Newegg or any other big website where you would go to your order history. I can go back to Amazon and look at my order history going back to 1997. So I don't know when you first created an Amazon account, assuming you have one, but every purchase you've ever made for the history since the day you created that account is still there for you to look up if you need to for any reason. And this can be quite beneficial, because one of the most maddening things in support is customers say, "Can you tell me what my product key is? I lost it." It's maddening how irresponsible people are, how people don't understand the importance of the key, and they don't think enough about how important it is that they should put it away somewhere in case they need it again. And I would say probably 40% of all tech support calls for software are key requests. 40%. So what companies have universally done, training the users doesn't work. They don't listen. They wait until they have a problem, and it could be 6, 12, 18 months after the purchase. Then they expect somebody to become their butler. So this is not a free service companies can afford to do anymore when everybody's so price conscious that somebody's got to pay for this. So what companies have universally decided to do is what Amazon did a long time ago, and that's just you use your email account, your account information, to log into the website and go look at your purchase history and go serve yourself. Okay? It's all there for you to go and get. You don't need to talk to anybody, you don't need to ask anybody, and you don't need to wait on anybody. And this is almost universally the way software is activated, including Acronis and many other programs like RoboForm. Once you sign in, oftentimes your account is activated for the software through the account you activated it with simply by signing in. So companies are also looking to do away with user input of these license codes. So for example, if you install Windows 11 and you enter your license code, once it activates for life. You will never need that license code ever again, unless you change the motherboard. the Microsoft activation servers remember you. They remember the serial number of the board, and that product key is tied to that board forever. Microsoft Office keys can be tied to your Microsoft account, but if you refuse to do that, then there may be some limitations on how many times you can use that Microsoft Office key. So what VIP-URCDKEYs does is they say, look, we'll help you for up to 6 months. After that, you're on your own. So when you buy something from them, you have 6 months of free support. Now, that's not to say they will not help you after 6 months, but they're not obligated. With the 6 months, they are obligated. They're making you that promise that if you have any problems or questions, look, nobody can just support you for free forever because somebody's got to pay for that. And you're looking at a $25 product key. How much do you think you're gonna, how much self-help and hand-holding do you think you're gonna get for how long on top of getting the product key? I'm sure if you're willing to pay for it, a service will be willing to provide it, right? If I want a butler, if I want a maid, I would expect to have to pay for that, right? No one's gonna come up and clean up after me for free. So the fact that they offer the support is so unusual because many key sellers online, most of them offer no support at all. So just keep that in mind. And because the company does offer support, the last thing they want to do is spend the money to have to support you. So they do everything they can proactively to ensure that you don't need the support to begin with. What's interesting in this industry is the companies that offer the best support are the companies you least likely need support from, because they care that they don't want to get inundated with support calls, because those support calls, they have to pay an employee to answer those support calls. It costs them money. So it makes more sense for them to sort of put more effort into the original sale, as complete and thorough as possible, to reduce the odds that you will need support. Because the minute you ask for support, they're instantly losing profit, instantly. And the more you have to do it, probably the angrier you're getting, and probably the angrier they're getting, because at some point, it's now costing them money for you to be their customer. And you can't run a business that, you can run a charity that way, but you can't run a business very long that way. So that's almost universal in tech, is you either get support or you don't. And the companies that typically don't offer it, or they offer very limited support, those are the companies most often you need support from, because they don't have much incentive to prevent you from calling. They don't care. So the companies that actually do care have the best support, and at least it's been my experience, and are also the least likely companies you will ever have to reach out to for support as a result. There it is. All right. So our friends over at ACEMAGIC, you know, they sent us a couple of machines. We had a high-end machine. Was it the M1, M5? We had 3 different, this is the third one. We have a high-end, mid-range, and a budget. And what's interesting about this particular machine is they have been making this particular model. This is called the K1, although they say it's a Kron K1. They've been making the K1 for many years, but they're changing the internal components as the internal components evolve, and higher end, faster processing, lower power consumption, and lower cost CPUs become available. They don't change the whole thing. They just swap the chip out. Maybe they change a chipset, and then they don't have to retool the whole factory. This makes manufacturing costs cheaper. This also means that you as a consumer could buy it for less money because it didn't cost them as much to make. It's a win-win for everybody. Now, whether or not something meets your particular values when it comes to the aesthetic, the size, the weight, the overall number of ports, that is usually and typically reflected in the price. Okay, so this is an industry more or less where you get what you pay for. So there's usually a variance of similar products of about a 10%, maybe less price gap. And when you're only talking about a $300 computer, 10% is 30 bucks. So 30 bucks one way or another is important to you. Then it's also important to consider what kind of support you might get from that company as well. So you can buy on AliExpress and get 0 support. You're essentially buying from a garage sale. You might pay a little bit less, and you might have to wait 3 weeks to receive your product. But if that's worth saving just a few dollars, that's your choice. Now, if you were saving $300 on a $3,000 purchase, that's a more significant amount of money, but then you'd probably be less patient to want to wait that long, and you'd probably want some reassurance of support when you spend that kind of money that, you know, you've got somewhere to send it back to under warranty. So it's not always just about price. It's about the individual specifications, availability, how soon you can get it, what kind of warranty you've got, et cetera, et cetera. So bear all that in mind anytime you're watching any kind of a mini PC review or review for anything, because most content creators here on YouTube are paid to make reviews. If a content creator is paid by a manufacturer to make a review, that's not a review. And I would love for United States law to kick in, for trade laws to kick in and enforce this. But unfortunately, what you're watching is a commercial disguised as a review. And nearly every single review you will see on YouTube, on this platform, is a commercial. It's a paid commercial. There are exceptions, but those exceptions represent a very small number of all the reviews out there. The vast majority of product reviews you are watching are paid commercials. All right, and if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. I just wish they'd stayed as much. So for full transparency, we're funded by our viewers. And because of that, we're free to speak anything we want to say, any of our opinions. A manufacturer cannot dictate to us when to make the video, how to make the video, to show them the video before we air it to make sure that they approve it. We don't play that game here. That's what a commercial does, right? If they want to pay for a commercial, no one's stopping them. They can go pay a production company and write a script and go through marketing people and get some actors and polished editing. I mean, we've seen all the, you know, we're surrounded by commercials every day. What you don't see often is a live content creator who is funded by their audience, who works as a real computer technician, not an enthusiast. Somebody is held legally and liably accountable to the customers that pay that technician for their service. And I've been doing this professionally over 35 years. On a YouTube channel I started in 2008. And I've been making videos regularly ever since. And everything I'm telling you is verifiable. I've authored a book. I've co-hosted a radio show on technology for many years, nationwide radio show. I have a long verifiable history of teaching at the college. I have a long verifiable history. I don't work under a false name. I don't just show you my hands. All right, I'm not hiding from any of you. What do I have any reason to hide? So when it comes to reviewing, if you're new here, expect some blunt honesty that, you know, might make you feel a little uncomfortable. And if I genuinely like something, it's because I like it, not because I'm trying to appease the manufacturers. Honestly, if a manufacturer sells me something I don't like, why would I be interested in looking at anything else from that manufacturer? We'll mutually agree, we'll both move on. If this isn't something that I would sell a client, my own personal client that I'm held accountable for, I'll tell you. Sometimes with these machines, when it's a new manufacturer, somebody we've never heard of, it takes a little time. It's not so easy to figure it out in a live video. But if it's really bad, like so obviously bad that we have some very serious concerns during the live video, that's a different story. And I'm going to tell you as much because I have nothing to lose, right? And the manufacturers, they don't pay me to do this. In this case, ACEMAGIC asked us to review this. And we said, if you send it to us, we'll review it. Those are the terms. No money is exchanging hands. They're not charging us for this. They're not asking for this back. Not that I would care to send it back. I mean, I don't care. But the point is, what I glean from this as a business owner is I get some experience with these machines so I can advise my customers if they're looking for a mini PC, the information that I've evaluated and had hands-on experience, not just Reddit and Amazon reviews, but actual hands-on experience, if I feel comfortable putting my reputation on a mini PC and suggesting or recommending it to a client to solve a particular issue they're having, like, hey, we need to replace some computers. What can we replace the computers with? This is our budget. This is our timeline. This is how many we need. This is when we need it by. Is there a computer you can recommend for us? I can't just responsibly look in Google search like many people do online to buy their home computer and make a decision without ever having it in front of me, because that customer will call me for the entire life of the machine anytime they have a problem. And that's what I want them to do. That's how I stay in business. But I don't want it to be warranty issues. It's okay if it's training issues and I can bill them for training. How do I do this and how do I do that? That's not a technical problem. That's a human education problem. That's billable hours. But if they say, hey, the machine won't turn on or it's crashing on me, that's a warranty issue. And if there's not a lot of money to be made on these, if I put my name on it, I am held legally accountable for repairing it at no additional charge during the warranty period. So much in the same manner, if I find myself having to go out there time and time again to keep repairing something, I've already lost money. I am now basically paying the customer to buy from me. It's not a business model that can be sustained, and certainly not for 35 years. Ask me how I know. Just look around you and look how many computer shops aren't around anymore. Why do you suppose that is? They weren't making enough money. It's pretty simple. So whether that's because people stopped buying or because they had a lot of warranty issues, they weren't capable of, either they weren't honoring them or they were honoring them to their own expense to where there wasn't any money left. So that's why it always comes back to the seller. And you also lose confidence in your customer. You think that if that customer has a bad experience with your recommendation, they've given you money, do you think they're going to come back to you again? Never mind negative reviews. That doesn't even matter. Repeat business is so much easier than trying to find new business. Any salesman will tell you. I don't want to work that hard, man. I want to keep customers as long as possible. I don't want to just gouge one person one time and go find the next person to gouge. I want somebody to feel like I am trustworthy, they got a good value, they have confidence that everything I sell them I stand behind, so there's no risk. And I want to make sure in my best interest that I honor that, or it's going to come out of my pocket. If I don't honor it, they'll probably take their business somewhere else. So one way or the other, it's in my best interest to provide the best service, the same that I would want if I'm spending my hard-earned money on something. All right, so that's my motivation behind why I do these videos. And again, a thanks to everybody in green and all of our community that allow me to continue this in such a unique and independent voice that comes from a place of professional technical work and not just as an enthusiast working at home. So if it works good for me as a business professional, it should work great for you at home in theory. Let me take a look at what we've got in front of us. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of different variations of this product. So let's start, again, we'll look at the video notes. Mara, our channel administrator, she's posted the links for both Amazon and direct from the manufacturer. With Amazon, you have free 30-day returns, probably faster shipping, and a slightly higher price. You say, why? Well, Amazon is making money, and the manufacturer is making money. So if you buy directly from a manufacturer, they're not paying Amazon any commission, right? If you buy directly from me, I can offer you a lower price than if you buy directly through eBay, and eBay is going to take a commission of the sale. There's a middleman. The benefit of having Amazon as the middleman is Amazon's customer service is universal. It doesn't vary from one manufacturer to another. Secondly, Amazon's shipping, especially if it's Amazon Prime, is much faster. But it doesn't come for free, usually. There's usually a slight price difference because, again, the manufacturer will have to pay Amazon a commission of the sale price. You can almost figure out what that is by comparing how much it sells for at the manufacturer's site direct versus how much it sells for on Amazon. And you could safely assume that's the commission they're paying. So the manufacturer makes the same either way. The manufacturer also, if you order direct, may be shipping out of the country. So shipping up from the manufacturer directly may also offer you 30-day returns, but it may not be as smooth of a process or as familiar of a process. It might be, it might not be, right? And I'm not talking about this specific manufacturer, but just any manufacturer. The shipping, if it's shipping from another country, is going to be a couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, at least from China to the United States currently. And other countries, I can't speak for that, but These are all things to bear in mind besides price. So many people are price fixated. They think they're comparing the exact same things, and you don't seem to realize, many people don't, that you're paying for additional things, right? You're paying for the faster shipping, or you're paying for that Amazon comfort. You can buy a rock hard chair probably for less money than a really nice plush comfortable chair. Maybe you don't care. But they're not the same thing. There are differences, but they're both chairs, granted. All right, so with that, let me go over to the website. Let's start with, let's see, we'll go directly to the manufacturer. Let's start there. So the manufacturer, of course, is ACEMAGIC, and we've worked with ACEMAGIC over the years, and I feel very confident about their products. I have many ACEMAGIC machines here. I don't think we've ever seen one fail. So, not that we have that many, but we probably have many than most people, more than most people. And so far, they've been solid. Let me jump over to the window capture so we can take a look at the ACEMAGIC website. Now you'll notice the ACEMAGIC K1 is the model number. And you know, it's a little disappointing to me when a manufacturer recycles the product model name, because like I said, there's various versions of this. In fact, if you look straight down, you'll see that this item here is an Intel Core i5-12600 in silver, but they also offer it as a Ryzen 5 7430 in black, a Ryzen 3 3300 in silver, and a Ryzen 3 4300 in silver. And then on top of that, you can do 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage, or double to 32 gigs of RAM and double to 1 terabyte of storage. And of course, the price will be reflected up here when you make those option changes, but still probably cheaper than you can do it unless you already have the spare parts lying around. They're buying large bulk manufacturer purchases at a far cheaper price than you and I can buy. Looking at the specifications, it looks like $350 on what should be a $600 machine here, according to their math, which is 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of storage. It's a really good price. Let's scroll down. It says that this is a pre-order, so this hasn't even been released yet. It'll release next month, almost a month from now. But if you pre-order it, you get a pre-order price to incentivize you to go ahead and order it. They offer 3 to 5 business day shipping. That's why I say you've got to check with these manufacturers. They're not all the same. So here they're just letting you know they have fast, free shipping. Maybe a little bit longer than Amazon, maybe not, depending on if Amazon is shipping or if they're shipping on the Amazon site. It could be either way. They have a 30-day money-back guarantee, very similar to Amazon, and they have a 2-year warranty, not the standard 1-year warranty. And listen, none of this is free. You might be able to find a machine with a 1-year warranty that costs less. Gee, I wonder how the economics of that work. All right. It all starts to make sense because all the manufacturers, with few exceptions, have the same budgets, right? The more they're going to offer you, the more reassurances. That insurance is built into the price, and it's built in its scale. So if we look here at the overview of the product, let's see if I can scroll this down. Let's see. System is doing something. There we go. Okay. I lost my place. All the way back up. Okay, so the ACEMAGIC Kron Mini K1. Now this one says powered by this Ryzen 5 7430. I don't think that's the one we've got. Unfortunately, back over here and I'll show you something. On the back of this box, it doesn't tell us what processor we have. It tells us that this is a mini PC, that it's the Kron Mini, it's the model K1. All of that is written in bold, but in fine print right back here, it should tell us the CPU, and it doesn't. It tells us we've got 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of ROM. This is frustrating that Asian manufacturers don't understand the definition of the word ROM from English to Chinese. It must not translate properly. ROM is read-only memory. It means you cannot write. So according to this, they have 512 gigs of storage you can't write to. That is a misunderstanding between Chinese and English translation. What that needs to say instead of ROM is it needs to say storage or SSD, something that would translate to English, because ROM is completely incorrect and is not accurate, and they're not really doing themselves any favors by by suggesting you can't write data to this, because that's what they're saying when they use the word ROM. Clearly, they're not doing that on purpose. We keep pointing it out to them, and they're not changing it. And I want you to be aware when you see that it's a misunderstanding between the Chinese language and the English language, that the person responsible for this isn't getting the message. So don't let that throw you. Also, don't let it throw you into thinking your storage is a ROM. If you have a DVD or a CD or a Blu-ray, that's a ROM. And then they sell this with different plugs. So they have a Japanese plug, they have an Australian plug, and a US plug. And so there's little boxes that check which options are on here. And the option that's missing is which CPU we have. So I honestly don't know what's in here. I have no clue. The links that Mara has posted to Amazon take us to the Intel version. So maybe Mara knows something we don't know with regards to her communication with ACEMAGIC and what they supposedly sent us. But anyway, let me get back over to the website because I got distracted here with some phrasing. It's difficult for me to look at the specs when, oh, okay, so Ryzen 5, Ryzen 3. Let's assume it's the Intel because those are the links that Mara has posted to Amazon. And this is the one they've got on sale right now on pre-order for $349. So if I'm assuming correctly, then this is an i5-12600H. These are the cores and threads. 2.7 gig with a turbo up to 4.5 gigahertz frequency on that CPU. 16 gigs of DDR4, or if you ordered it with 32 gigs, 3,200 mega transfers a second. Maximum was 64 gigs. That's true of all SODIMM DDR4. You cannot go higher than that unless you have more sockets. Storage, here, at least here they're calling it storage. They're not calling it ROM, so they got it right there. 512 gig, yeah, it's M.2 2280. It's in PCIe 3x4. That's very reasonable at this price point. And they also have the option of 1 terabyte, so depending on which one you order. It says there are 2 M.2 slots. One supports NVMe and one is, oh, it supports NVMe or SATA. In one slot you can go either way. And then the other slot is NVMe only. It is Wi-Fi 6 built in, which I believe can be upgraded, but we'll open it up and take a look. Bluetooth 5.2 is part of that. It's got 1 HDMI output. It has 1 USB Type-C, which will support DisplayPort output up to 4K at 60 Hertz for a second monitor. It's got a 3.5 millimeter, it's not a phone jack, it's an audio jack. So once again, we have some English translation issues here. The LAN adapter that's built in is an RJ45. It's just gigabit, and anything gigabit will automatically step down to 100 megabit or 10 megabit, which, you know, maybe you might have been using in the late 90s, early 2000s, but ever since then, gigabit's been pretty standardized. So you'd have to have some pretty old equipment to want to drop it down by 1% or 10% of the speed it's capable of. It also has an additional USB 3.2 Type A ports, 2 of those that run at 10 gigs per second. They're Gen 2. And then 2 additional Type A ports. There's 4 of them. Sorry, there's 4 additional USB 3.2 ports at 5 gigabits per second. Those are going to be just regular Gen 1 ports. And there's another Type-C port as well running Gen 2, which again is going to be 10 gigs per second. So this thing's loaded with ports. DC input, again, looks like we've got HDMI out, DisplayPort out, and then if you add that to the USB Type-C that also supports DisplayPort, that would mean you could have 3 monitors on this at the same time. It has Windows 11 built into it. It runs on a power adapter that's typical of a laptop, 19 volts 6.3 amps because this is running mobile parts. Same as a laptop. It has the same power requirements, just without the battery, the built-in monitor, the built-in speakers, the built-in keyboard, the built-in mouse, the built-in webcam. You pay additional for all that on a laptop, right? The battery, etc. Now, if we look over at Amazon, as I mentioned, Mara has posted the link here to the 12600H version, and it's listed at $589, but then there's a $172 off coupon. That's going to bring that down to a little over $400, $407, something like that. Whereas if you bought it directly, what did I say the price was here? $349. Usually the price discrepancy isn't that big, but there you go. Much more incentivized to buy that direct. And it is a pre-order, so Amazon says they don't expect delivery for 5 days. I don't know how accurate this is because this website says they'll begin shipping on April 20th. So we have some inconsistency here, assuming we're looking at the same model. Core i5-12600H, Core i5-12600H, 16 gigs and 512, 16 gigs and 512. Yeah, I got a feeling if you order this from Amazon, you aren't going to see it. Prime members could have delivery tomorrow. How can you have delivery tomorrow if it's a pre-order item not available until April 20th? I don't know that. I don't have any answers here unless, hold on, this says either the i5-12600 or the AMD Ryzen 5 7430U. Looks like the pricing is the same, so maybe there's some, I'm not sure what this means other than if we look down here, these lines are slashed out because they're not available. They're either sold out or haven't been made available yet. But apparently what ACEMAGIC is saying, either way, it's this price for these two models. They're considered in manufacturing cost to be identical, just one's Intel and one's AMD, and they're spec'd out exactly the same. Windows 11 Pro, 16 gigs of RAM, same Wi-Fi, same Bluetooth, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. All right, let's get back over to camera one. And before I do the unboxing, let me just check and see if you guys have any questions or concerns before we start. Oh, and let me say hello to everybody. I haven't done that yet. Let me scroll back up to the top here and let's say hello to John Williams and Eddie Casanova, David Graham, as well as Mark Gaines. Of course, Mara is hanging out in our chat room along with Mortant, Elijah Dickens, Ben Laird, and Andy W6AD. I see Chris Johnson saying hello, and Rick Lakes joining us. Welcome in, everybody. There's also Sean Skinner joining us here in the chat. Edward Bass says hello. Jonathan Fells and Frank Jimmy say hello in our chat room, joining us. Phil Stodd also popping in, saying hello. Patrick Manny, as well as Thomas Mac T, Mad Turian, Michael Lavelle and David Herzog. Young Tejan saying hello. Brian Weber joining us as well. Terrell Cochran says hello. W.E. Holmes saying hello. Scott joins us here in the chat room. Taffer, as well as Ransvat. Mike Gamer says hello, as does Alan with a Y. Steve Detroit. Paul Vircher. M.X says hello. Mr. BCA joins us. Bernie joining us. Eugene Hidalgo joins us along with old man timer. Saijiro saying hello. Dan M 94 says hello. And there's Bike Man also joining us. Okay. I hope I got everybody and said hello. And yeah, I encourage people watching this video to interact with us. If you're watching a live video, the whole point of this is to have community interaction. This is not your typical YouTube video that you're just supposed to passively stand by and watch. You can, but you might not find it anywhere near as entertaining when you're not a part of the show. Whether or not you choose to be part of the show is entirely up to you, no pressure. If you feel like you can't behave yourself or be a nice person, don't bother. Other than that, we'd love for you to pop in and say hello. Okay? Richard DeFries, speaking of which, of nice, kind people, pops in and says hello here in the chat room. Good to see everybody today. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday. Abdul Azim Patel says hello along with WD180K. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. All right. Should we get to our unboxing and find out what the heck is in this box? I know it's a K1. I just don't know what it is. Specifically, what's in the box. In fact, if we Google the ACEMAGIC K1, you will find they've been making the same exact model name for years. So the reason I'm warning you of this is I don't want you to think they're all the same and that what you're buying is what we're showing. You need to look at the details. Verify before you hit the buy button that you're getting exactly the model with the RAM and the storage and the CPU that you were intending to buy, because I don't want you to be disappointed. I want you to get exactly what you're expecting. All right, grab my knife and let's do the unboxing of the ACEMAGIC Kron Mini K1. Let's see if I can get a close-up of this, if this is going to work. Yes, perfect. I've got a little crunched in shipping here, but that should be fine. These are packed to withstand that easily, but it can make getting the package, the sleeve around the package removed, because it's deformed a little bit. You can see that went pretty deep into that corner. Probably the box was dropped on the corner. It did not ship from the factory this way. This is something that happened during shipping, and the manufacturers are responsible for packing this to withstand that kind of damage. It's very common. So don't let that worry you if you receive yours that way. I don't want you to think, oh no, it must be broken. Highly unlikely. Possible, but highly unlikely. Okay, here we go. So in the box, we've got the mini PC with the blue Intel sticker that says i5. So see, Mara did know something, didn't she? And it's one of the thin units. I like the thin units, me personally. For the rest in the box, we've got the documentation. And then underneath, if we lift this packing material out, we've got two small boxes here. You can stick your finger in the hole to pull one of the boxes out. And this box contains this is a VESA mounting bracket. This is if you wanted to mount the mini PC behind your monitor or underneath the desk. You would mount the plate to the thing you want to mount the computer to, and then the computer will slot in to these little keyhole slots, and it'll hang on it. So much like the way you'd hang a picture. And then we've got a short HDMI cable. I don't use these because they're really short in length. That's because if you were to put this behind your monitor, I mean, I wouldn't want 6 feet of cable just draped over looking ugly. But because I keep this on a desk, this cable wouldn't be long enough. So, but they include that. That's pretty standard. And then for PC power cable, we've got a standard laptop, what we call cloverleaf or 3-prong power cable. But that will not plug directly into the mini PC. This is going to plug into a power adapter, much the same as you're familiar with a laptop. What's interesting is I don't see any screws. Oh, that's because they're right here. So you got 2 sets of screws, 1 set of screws to mount the plate, and then the brass screws go into the back of the mini PC for mounting to the, so they slot into those little keyhole slots. And then we've got this last box. This is a heavier box. It's probably got our power adapter. You better have our power adapter. And that's all that's in there. So there is everything you get right there. And then what I'll do, I've got my keyboard and mouse out here and ready. Let's go ahead and remove the protective material around the Mini. Oh, we definitely got a silver one. There's our 2 USB-A and a USB Type-C. There's a headphone or audio or headset jack. Nothing on the sides, just ventilation. And then we come around the back, look at all the USB ports. We've got 4 more USBs here. We have, I thought this had 2, I thought the description said it had 2 USB-Cs, but clearly we just have the 1 USB Type-C. This yellow sticker is a warning that says, hey, don't plug this in to your network or don't connect it to Wi-Fi until after you set up Windows. So we can remove that because we do that anyway. And yeah, it looks like we have a total of 7 USB ports. 4 in the front. I'm sorry, 4 in the back, 2 in the front. Well, technically 3 in the front because 1 is USB Type-C. You've got HDMI output, DisplayPort output, and then you could use this Type-C as a display output, so you can have 3 monitors running on this simultaneously at 4K and 60 Hertz. That's your barrel style power connector, and if you're wondering what this little hole is here, that's called a Kensington lock or a K-lock, and that's like a bicycle lock. That's where you can buy a Kensington or K-lock steel braided cable. Places like Amazon sell them, and it has a locking mechanism that locks into this hole into the metal frame of the PC, and then you would attach the opposite end as you would secure a bicycle to something that's heavy and unmovable so that somebody can't grab this and walk away with it if it's placed somewhere where you're worried about that happening. So what I'm going to do first, I think, is we'll open it up and see what it looks like on the inside. And I need a little space. So what I'll do is I'll just grab, let's get rid of this. And let me just, bear with me for a second because what I'm going to do is just kind of put this stuff in the box. I'm not going to like put it all away like I'm done with it. I just want to get the stuff off the desk. I already have my own power cable, so I don't need to use theirs. I will need the brick. I don't need the VESA mount. I don't need the screws for the VESA mount. I don't need the HDMI. I don't need the documentation. And I don't need the rest of these boxes. So that's going to make a lot of space available to me that I didn't have a minute ago. If I had a bigger bench, I would just slide it off to the side. All right, so how serviceable is this? What I can tell you by looking at it, is, and this is the case for most mini PCs, we are using mobile parts. We're using laptop parts, if that helps for you to understand. And in most cases, your CPU is on the bottom, what we would refer to as the bottom. The CPU is upside down, and all of your cooling then happens at the bottom of the unit, right? You see these ventilations? Right here, there's vents. Right here, there's vents. See the vents? Why are they at the bottom? Because the CPU is on the bottom. In almost all cases, especially with mini PCs, we're not talking about laptops. These are laptop parts, but to get it into such a small form factor, we use both sides of the circuit board. So one side of the circuit board will have the CPU, the other side has the RAM and storage and Wi-Fi and, more than likely, but not always, the CMOS battery. So when it comes to opening this up, if you're wondering which side of this do I need to have access to change the RAM and storage, you want to guess after what I just told you? It's going to be underneath the top in most mini PCs. So how do we get there? Well, on some mini PCs, you'll see a seam and the top can come off. On others, there's screws on the bottom and then the bottom comes off, or the screws hold the top on. They do this all different ways. But you say, Carey, I don't see any screws. Sometimes mini PC manufacturers like to put rubber feet over the screws. We've been complaining about this for years. Sometimes with some of their designs, they honor our request, and sometimes they don't. And when I say they, I mean many PC manufacturers across the board. I don't know of any PC manufacturer who exclusively only does it one way that has a variety of models. They change the model design, and some of those designs just seem to work better based on their engineering and marketing to have rubber feet covering the screws. I don't understand why, when it's not a part of the machine you're going to see. If the screw's covered up or not, how would you know? So don't fret and don't try and pry it open. First, we're going to look to see if there's screws. And there probably is, and they're probably under these rubber feet. So if we go back to close up here, let's see if, oh yeah, it's pretty typical. By removing that glued, it's an adhesive on the bottom of this rubber foot. The more often you take these little rubber feet off, the less the adhesive properties get weaker and weaker until they won't stay on anymore. They don't give you any spare feet. So then you're going to have to come up with your own clever way, or stop opening the darn thing up. I think most people who buy these will never open them up, but just to show you that it can be done, and depending on your personality, if you're a tinkerer, or if you're somebody who says, I know enough to be dangerous and I know better, that's your decision. But all I'm doing is just putting some pressure on these, and the older they get, the harder they can be to remove. And sometimes when you remove the rubber feet, the adhesion sticks to the plastic instead of to the foot. And that means if you put the wrong foot back, you'll have a foot with double adhesion and one with none whatsoever. You'll understand. If that ever happens to you, you'll understand. But in there now, there are screws that were hidden below those feet. And we'll need like a small precision screwdriver to get in there. Now I have a variety of tools that I use for this. And one of my go-tos, I keep right down here, if I can reach it. And this is a brand not well known, and they don't sponsor us here. We bought these like anybody else, and they're a brand called Nanch. And if you want something cheaper, better value, but good quality, that would be comparable to iFixit. You definitely get more bang for your buck with Nanch. There's no iFixit tax on it, but I do like iFixit tools, and I have pretty much every iFixit toolkit they make. So it's nice to have options, is all I'm saying. When we open this up, I have a variety of so many different kinds of bits. Likely this is going to be just a standard Phillips head. I'm just not sure which size, but I know it's going to be a precision driver. And this kit gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different Phillips head bits. So it's very generous. Plus we have Torx bits, we have flat blades, we have bits I don't know what they're called, with all kinds. And they give us a small handle And a magnetizer, demagnetizer is also included so you don't drop the screws. So I'm going to try the second largest one, I think. Second largest Phillips. You probably want to start with the largest one rather than starting with the small one, because the small one, if it's too loose, it'll strip out the top of the screw. That's called camming the screw. It's not stripping the threads, it's stripping the lid. And then you're in a world of trouble. I see people that say, I can't afford a screwdriver, I'll use what I have laying around the house. And if you do that, I just want you to know, some plastic there. I just want you to know you are going to damage your unit. You're going to cam it out. You're going to be one of those people that goes on Reddit with a close-up picture of a cammed out screw going, how can I get this out? Because I used a butter knife to open it. I mean, it's yours to screw it up if you want to. But if you can't go and just go to Harbor Freight Tools or go online and buy a specific, you don't have to have a big kit like this. Just buy a precision screwdriver kit. They're under $5. That's all you need for most cases. If you won't spend $5 on it, you shouldn't be opening it. Or you should realize that what you're about to do is, let me try and put it to you this way. As somebody who's done this countless times over decades, I wouldn't do that with my skill and experience. I would not use the wrong tool. I'm afraid I'll damage it. Now, if you don't have the skill and you don't have the experience and you don't have the right tools, how do you think that's going to work out for you? Best of luck to you. It's yours to do with what you want, but just have the right expectations. Okay, that I've dropped in there and it looks like it's fitting perfectly. So I might have got lucky here. And we'll go ahead and just start turning that. And you can see I've got a little magnetism on there. If it wasn't magnetized enough, I can run it through the magnetizer just to give it a little more magnetic strength. Magnets do not hurt computers. Magnets used to hurt magnetic media like floppy disks and VHS tapes, stuff like that. The bulk erasers were often just these big electronic magnets. But when it comes to solid state electronics, they're impervious to magnets. So things have changed over the years. Solid state drives, even modern hard drives, which can be affected by magnets. If you've ever opened a mechanical hard drive up, you'll find it's got a very powerful earth magnet right inside of it. So if magnets are bad for it, explain that to me. All right, so with those 4 screws removed, now the question is, how does this come out? So one of the things you'll notice is look where the seams are. You notice there's a seam around here between the black and the silver. It's not just one molded piece. And we know that the RAM is underneath the lid. So that means that this lid has to come off, and it'll come off around here, around where this lip is. At least I think so. So now that we've removed the screws, the question is, how do we separate the seam? I'd probably want to start in the back. And you can use a credit card or a guitar pick or a professional spudging tool, like this is one from iFixit. See if you can get that into the seam. And sometimes, this is more of a nuance. I stick my fingernail in there and I get some separation. That's what I was looking for. Once I've started it, and I don't have much in the way of fingernails, okay, but I find I have a little bit more feeling using a fingernail than using a tool. And once I start that separation, you can see I've got the spudger in there, and I want to just kind of run it along until I figure out where the little clips are that are holding this in. Now at the same time, we can do the same thing at the bottom. Again, you can see a seam running all along the bottom between the silver and the black on this model. And getting the spudger in there was pretty darn easy. Okay, and then I can just take it out this way, which is apparently easier. Now, this is a skill in and of its own where essentially, unless you have multiple hands, you want to start with your spudger, pull the unit out so you can try and hold it in place with something. Anything to just kind of hold it, because the minute I let it go, it'll snap back closed, right? And then we can come along the top and try and just loosen all those tabs so that it won't snap. The tension will be reduced and it won't snap back. In fact, there's a little tiny recess right there. That's clearly where the clip is, right in the middle. And if we work our way around, there should be one in the middle in theory, well, except for the back, because the back obviously is all one solid piece, except for the corners. So we just have one more in theory to reduce, or to remove rather, and it should be right in here. Now remember, I've never done this before. This is based on experience and having the right tools and understanding what our expectations are. If you have no clue what you're doing, it's very easy to break these. Quite often, when machines are designed this way, they'll often have the wireless antennas attached to the other half, one half or the other. If the antennas are attached to the main, the black portion here, then this top lid will come off free and clear. But if the manufacturer attached the antennas, the top half, that means that the top half is tethered to the bottom half by very thin antenna wires that are easily broken. You hear me? Their thin antenna wires could be attached to one of the halves, or rather to both of the halves, keeping them tethered permanently together. So as you can see, I've got three sides removed. So then the question becomes, okay, how do we get this last part out? I want you to watch this, because in this design, typically, when you've removed or loosened the sides, remember how hard of a time I was having getting the spudger in here? I should be able to get the spudger in there super easy. It's a big gap now. And I don't want to use too much force to remove this, or if there is an antenna, and I want you to look very closely, right there. You might be able to zoom in. There's a little clippy recess. There's like a bracket there that's clipping onto something. It's right there. So this will probably be in a groove where this whole piece slides in. So I'm going to try and slide it out, and something is holding me up. If you notice, when I lift it, you notice how one side goes up and the other side doesn't? That means something's holding us in. And if you use brute force and you pull them apart too hard, and if there's an antenna here, you're going to rip the wire, and your Wi-Fi range is probably going to be affected. I mean, look, the machine will still work, but your Wi-Fi might suck after that. So what I'm trying to do is be gentle and just a little coercive to try and see if I can get this back piece separated. Gentle, patience, tolerance, or take it to somebody else who will handle it with care. All right? If you're a doctor who's just gonna smack me around, I'm gonna go to a more caring doctor, okay? What's happening right now are the ports are behind the holes. And because the ports poke through the holes, we have to kind of pull the plastic face away from those ports. And then look at here. It's the opposite of what I thought it would be. What's happened is we've got the bottom half off. I expected the top half to come off. So that came off exactly the opposite of what I thought. And what this wire is, this is not antennas. This is your power jack that comes in off the bottom portion. I really thought the top portion was coming off. So that means we have to get to the other side. This is your CPU. These are your heat sinks that the hot air will come out of. We can't even unplug this because the plug is on the other side of the circuit board. So how do we get to the other side of the circuit board? Once again, where you have ports poking through the holes, these ports are sort of set into the hole. So while they're inside of it, you can't really remove it. You have to pull the face away to kind of push the ports back. Ideally, you don't want to put any pressure on the ports. You want to put it on the plastic. And when you bend the plastic away, I'm just checking to see if anything is holding us in here. I don't see any screws in here at all. So it may just be that it's held in with friction. I'm not sure. I am a little disappointed because this, in my opinion, the silver part should have come off and exposed us to the RAM and storage. The fact that the bottom came off, there's nothing there's nothing you can do here. I guess you could blow the dust and debris out of your fan, but even then, these don't tend to get anywhere near as dusty as a desktop. So we know there's nothing holding us in the back. Something is holding us in up front, and I see an antenna wire right there. Those are extremely fragile and they break off real easy. So I cannot stress having patience and being gentle unless you don't care about breaking the Wi-Fi antennas. Now, just because this particular model we have opens this way, don't assume all the K1s open this way. They might and they might not. So I mean, we're super loose here in the back, right? This whole thing is separating easy, but where it's not separating is from the front. So I wonder if something in the front is holding us in. And this is why I do this on camera, so I can figure it out for you. If you decide to order one, you won't have to go through this learning curve. They really don't have any documentation showing you how to do this. Let me see. So we know we're loose on this side. So where are we hung up? Usually just a visual inspection. I'm going to have to put on my stronger glasses so I can get a good look inside of there. There could be some plastic clips. Or maybe there's some screws I'm not saying, though I doubt it, only because typically the screws would be all the way around. They wouldn't just be on one side. Typically. Just clear the air there. Let's see. What am I missing? I want to be extra cautious. There are two antenna wires, one right here and one right here, that are glued against the face. So when we take this circuit board away from the face, those antenna wires stay tethered, and they're very easy to tear. They will snap with very little effort. What it looks like, and I don't know how well the camera can pick this up, but we have these little grooves that only seem to exist right here, 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 and here. And again, I don't know how well the camera will pick that up. Here, here, and here, and here. And then these little clips that we're holding the black piece on, the one over here is also over this heatsink. And again, I don't know how well the camera's going to pick that up. But right there, it's underneath it. And that's the stuff that easily breaks off. They're not, it's just plastic and it's teeny tiny. So it doesn't mean you're really strong. It means you're careless if you break it. So by pulling, oh, there's two of them. There was one here and there's one right here. So by pulling that away, that was holding the heatsink down. And in theory, now we should be able to remove the whole unit. We probably have to take it out towards me to move the ports away from the holes. So don't struggle with it. If you're struggling, you're doing it wrong. Now you should definitely be able to see those antennas very clearly that are soldered to the front of the unit. See the two black stickers there? So we're tethered this way and we're tethered this way. So this requires a little bit more care than other mini PCs when it comes to opening it up. Now that we're inside of it, we can take a look at the port layout. We have one single module that's 16 gigs. And this is DDR4, but there is a second slot that's open and available. Now listen, and I can't be clearer with this. I don't care if you like chocolate or vanilla. I'm not going to sit here and listen to you tell me chocolate is better, because it isn't. My point is that I am also wrong by saying vanilla is better. These are a personal preference of your own values, and if our values don't align, it's just because we're different people, not because anybody's wrong. Some of you are saying, oh, it only has one RAM module. It's in single channel mode. It's vanilla. I am saying, I love vanilla. I like that. That's better. I am saying the exact opposite thing what some of you are saying right now. Because you think, I'm not getting the best performance out of this. If they had included two 8 gig modules, one in each socket, we'd be in dual channel mode. That would give us better performance. Yes, on paper, on benchmarking, but would you actually see it? Maybe you would, right? It depends on how intolerant you are, as well as how you use the computer, right? What software you put on. That I'm probably not even using it. So we have different values. What I see is I love that they gave me one 16 gig module. That means all I have to do if I want to upgrade my RAM to 32 gigs is buy one 16 gig module that's a 3200 speed. It doesn't have to be the same brand. Just a 3200 speed single 16 gig module, put it in the spare slot, my upgrade's done. What you're going to have to do with two 8s is take both 8s out and buy two 16s. It's going to cost you twice as much money. Now, if you want to spend twice as much money, maybe that's where our values are misaligned. So, since the performance difference between single channel and dual channel is insignificant compared to the performance difference of going from 16 gigs of RAM to 32 gigs of RAM, generally speaking, is significant, why would I want to pay twice as much when I only need to pay half as much and do half the work? So, you see how both sides are right? Pick a side, but don't tell the other side they're wrong. This is our Wi-Fi card right here. This is where the antenna wires are going. So now that we've got this opened up, we can take this little plastic cover off and pop these antenna wires off. And now that we're at the back side, which is actually the top of the case, we can also remove the main power input line and actually just have the circuit board. One other thing I could do is just take the Wi-Fi card out. So much like an M.2 drive, if I remove this Wi-Fi card, just make sure you don't lose that little teeny tiny screw. This takes, plugs in a very similar M.2 slot. We'll remove it and we'll just keep it over here, okay? And as for this plug right here, a nice little straight edge driver or flathead driver should be all we need. Get my mouse out of the way before I accidentally end my broadcast. Get in there and just pull that connector out. Sometimes people can do this with their fingers. You just want to be careful not to break the tabs that lock it in. Okay, so by doing that, we've now separated our two halves. And I can take this up to camera 1, give you a nice good close-up. So here's what's in the case. You'll see we have another NVMe slot, right? Just as the parts description said it was NVMe only. See how it says NVMe right there? That's an NVMe only. This one over here will be SATA or NVMe. So if you had, for example, an older SATA M.2 you wanted to stick in here, just move this one, because this one's going to be, better be NVMe. Yeah, this says right on it, it's Gen 3 by 4. So that's an NVMe. So this one will work in either slot, but a SATA one will only work in the other slot. I'm sorry, an NVMe will only work here, and an NVMe or SATA will work over here. Then there's our memory, which is right like so. The Wi-Fi card was right up here. See, they're stacked like stairs. The Wi-Fi card went below. That's pretty common. There's our CMOS battery with this red and black wire. Plugs in there and it goes to right around here. There's the front of the unit, which would be upside down like that, right, with the fan facing down. And then here's the back of the unit. There's a bunch of plugs that we don't use. These are for different models that might share the motherboard, but trying to see what would be a good picture here. Maybe if I take a step back. I'll make a stupid face. Yeah, you'll see that as a thumbnail later. You're welcome. So I do wish the serviceability of this had screws that weren't covered by rubber feet that when we pulled the cover off would expose the parts we can work on, not expose the parts or the side of the circuit board we can't work on. Like I said, that's not a user, this side of it is not user serviceable. And on the other hand, you know, it's a very attractive case. It is made of plastic. When they're made of metal, you know, once again, we're going to get back to the whole chocolate vanilla. When the case manufacturer, the PC manufacturers make their cases out of metal, it's a shield against Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, almost universally. Unless it has external antennas you can screw on, your Wi-Fi range and your Bluetooth range will be diminished simply because you like the shiny metal case. They're happy to make it however you want it. And if you prioritize form over function, that's your choice. You're not wrong. There is no PC manufacturer in the world that can improve the Wi-Fi range by putting it in a metal case. It only makes it worse. Plastic is cheaper. The manufacturing process is much faster. The machine will be less likely to leave fingerprints, as metal cases often do. And at the end of the day, it's probably just going to sit on a desk. So it's not like there's going to be any wear and tear on the case, generally speaking. So if you want to pay more to reduce functionality, you could always get a computer with a metal case or a mini PC with a metal case. But when you do that and you say, geez, my Wi-Fi range isn't very good on this compared to my other one, your other one's probably made of plastic. Just saying. Understand what you're buying and adjust your expectations and appreciate the fact that you're not right. There's a difference between facts and feelings. So just because you have feelings one way or the other doesn't mean somebody else's feelings are wrong. So just having courtesy. If you want somebody to respect your values, you're going to get what you give, or you certainly shouldn't expect to get anything other than what you give. If you give understanding and tolerance, you should expect understanding and tolerance. If it's your way or no way and everybody else is wrong, expect resistance from everybody else. It's a choice. You can make life more difficult, or it can make life easier depending on your attitude. But just again, we're talking about expectations. So adjust your expectations so you know you won't be blindsided. You will get exactly what you thought you were going to get in most cases. All right, and that makes life, at least for me, a lot more pleasant, predictable, and often gives me things to look forward to, rather than being blindsided with surprises that may not be surprises you want. But all at the end of the day is your choice. Your attitude, your choice. Okay, let me look through the chat and see if there's any questions before I put any of this back together and find out there was a question on the inside. Let me look through here real quick and get caught up. David Graham said, I've ruined many a butter knife. Mina in the chat wants to know, is the warranty voided? In the United States, it is illegal for a manufacturer to deny you warranty because you opened it. Now, I don't know if you're in the United States, and I can't speak for the local laws of other countries. But in the United States, the government protects consumers against manufacturers, even if the manufacturer has a sticker that says warranty void if removed. That's not legally enforceable. They could have a sticker that says you must hop on one foot and rub your tummy at the same time. They can't legally require you to do that because it's not an enforceable action. It's a company policy. And company policies are overwritten by federal and state laws. So at the end of the day, if a manufacturer were to say that they would not honor your warranty because you simply opened a unit up, you can legally enforce them to honor that warranty. So if they tell you that in the United States and you believe them, well, that's on you for not educating yourself. But the Warranty Act here is called, gosh, this happened a long time ago. Let me Google it real quick. Warranty in USA allowing customers, well, how can I phrase it? Making void if removed stickers unenforceable. I'll give you all the details because I don't want you to take my word for it. And this happened decades ago. So somebody either doesn't live in the US or maybe they missed that day at school back in the 60s and 70s. Unenforceable. Okay. The Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. Let me grab a screen capture of this, or a window capture, and let's look at this together. Warranty void if removed stickers are generally not enforceable in the USA under the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. Manufacturers cannot legally deny warranty coverage solely because a sticker is removed or a device is opened. Let me repeat that. Manufacturers cannot legally deny warranty coverage solely because a sticker is removed or a device is opened. However, they can deny a claim if it's proven that the user's repair or modification caused the damage. So the Warranty Act is 1975. That's over 50 years ago. And this hasn't changed in 50 years. So either the person that's writing this doesn't live in the USA, or they're over 50 years old and just didn't get the memo back in 1975. This is why you got to not believe people on the internet, because they say what they believe. They don't back it up with factual links. I do. All right, so it might make them feel smug to be able to make comments like that, but that's not the kind of member we're looking for in our community. We'd rather you ask a question like, hey, would this void the warranty? That's a genuine and sincere question. But if you make a false statement and you cannot back it up with any facts, expect me to retaliate and to humiliate you in front of everybody, because I don't want you to exercise that behavior. That's what children do. And I expect everybody here to be adults. Even the children that watch this channel, I expect to behave like adults. Otherwise, they'd probably be watching a skibbity toilet. I don't know. I don't know. But you understand what I'm getting at, right? Just because somebody's young doesn't mean they're not much more mature than you are. So, but feel free to ask those questions and I'm happy to answer them. But if you make false statements, I will call you out and prove you wrong, that you can then hopefully tuck your tail between your legs and change your behavior. It's unnecessary, and it makes it confusing for people when they get false information and they don't know who to believe. So you're not helping the community. You're poisoning the community well when you do that. And I'm going to protect this community, just so you know. You better make sure you've got links to back up what you're saying, or you better be damn sure you know what you're talking about if you're going to make some kind of statement like that on my channel, because that's what my audience expects from me, and I expect no less in return. Get what you get. All right. Let's see, what else are we missing or potentially missing here in the chat? Andy said this is one of the more difficult minis to get apart. It is, yeah. I mean, it's not impossible, but there are certainly minis that we've seen where you just push on the lid. No tools are required. This is much, much different than that. Again, there's really only 3 reasons you might want to get in here. One would be to add, change, or upgrade the NVMe, the storage, or the RAM, or maybe the Wi-Fi. That's it. Or I suppose you might need to change the BIOS, the CMOS battery, but that shouldn't be for many years. There's really nothing else for you to do in there. So I don't know why you'd be opening it up all the time. And if opening it up's a big deal, don't open it. You know, bring it to somebody else who knows what they're doing and has the right tools if you care about not damaging it. If it costs you money to have it opened up every time, I suggest you won't open it up as often. You know, there's an expression, if you keep picking at your scab, it won't heal. If you're somebody who won't leave things alone, you probably have a lot of broken stuff laying around your house. Because you'll do it until you can't do it anymore. And usually when it's broken, you're done. So for most customers, I think when they're buying mini PCs, they buy it with the RAM and storage they want, not thinking, hey, I'm going to upgrade this later. And to ACEMAGIC's credit, this is not sold as a bare bones unit. Okay, if they sold as bare bones where they're expecting you to put your own RAM and storage in and they make it this complicated, without the right tools and experience, this is probably going to end up in a disaster. So there's a good reason this is not offered in bare bones, at least in my opinion. Andy says that the Paladin Tri-Cube mini PC he has a top that's held on with magnets. There's lots of different innovations from different mini PC manufacturers, but I will tell you, the number of people who will ever open up a computer is probably 1 out of every 30 or 40 people that purchase this will open it. I understand this audience is a little bit more technical, but you don't represent a normal buyer. I'm telling you, normal buyers just simply don't do that very often. And the need to do that is also severely degraded because the technology is advanced. If this was 20 years ago, I'd be on board with you. But today, there shouldn't be any reason you need to upgrade this. If you need more storage, just get a USB external storage device. It'll pretty much run, maybe not at the speed of this, but pretty damn close. Just plug it in. Your installation's done. No screwdriver needed, no worry of damage or losing screws or rubber feet. Just plug it in. When it comes to RAM, you'd be hard-pressed to tell me you had a requirement for more than 16 gigs of RAM. These days, any amount of RAM you need will be taken off of your storage at such a fast rate that unless you're extremely intolerant and you're willing to back it up with your wallet, most people don't notice much difference if they have 16 gigs of virtual RAM in addition to the 16 gigs here, or 32 gigs of actual RAM. Right? Because we can still get the 32 or 48 or whatever the system needs right off of this fast storage. It's not moving off an old, slow mechanical drive. The days of needing to open up and upgrade your computer, they're pretty well, we're at the beginning of the end of these days. Well, we're closer to the end. It is becoming less and less necessary to maintain this old school mentality because the technology has evolved to a point of diminishing returns. And with the virtual memory working as fast as it does, only those who are the most demanding and intolerant and willing to spend the most amount of money are the only ones doing that now. Or they're doing it because they're brainwashed by the community online that will not let go of the past. Those days are behind us. There's very few exceptions to people that would still have that justifiable reason, but they shouldn't be buying a computer like this to begin with. It's a bizarre hypocrisy where someone will buy something on the budget end or the mid-range end and then claim it's not good enough unless they modify it. And you will spend more time and more money upgrading it than if you would have just bought it, the higher end model to begin with. It doesn't make any sense anymore. It wasn't true in the past, but I don't think we're ever going back to the past. This is the new way, and the sooner you embrace it, the easier and less complicated your life gets. These processes simply, they're not required anymore, and people will not let go of this mentality. So if you're of the school that you want, it's not good enough unless you improve it, I mean, you're not doing anything wrong, but I promise you, the likelihood of your system crashing or becoming unreliable is much higher because you messed with it. The amount of money you spent is going to be higher, and the likelihood for damage is higher. And if you're okay with that because it's fun, you enjoy it, and it's, again, feelings and not facts, or if you're just really, really intolerant and you have a lot of money to spend, we have different values. So you're not wrong, but the world is moving over to a model where that's all in the past now. And the need to open this up and change it around, for most, the vast majority of buyers, they'll never need to open this in its whole life cycle. I'm just telling you, those days are pretty well over. And to do so is pretty much not a requirement. It's a choice somebody makes. It's a voluntary elective decision to risk damaging, spend more money, and spend more time on something that prior to you working on it was working just fine, that you felt you could make better. And if you want to do that, I would just suggest you buy a higher end model to begin with. You know, get yourself an i9, get yourself, if you're of that mentality that nothing's ever good enough and everything could be made better, just go to the top end and you don't have to worry about it. Or keep spending more money and risking damage and keep doing what you're doing. But that is a dying breed. Just so you know, we're not all moving that way. We're moving away from that because the technology is advanced to a point where it's no longer required. It's maybe something you think is fun, and that's fine, but definitely not representative of the outside of the internet. You go and meet somebody in real life, the likelihood that they would open up a computer in real life, it's everywhere online, and it's very few and far between in the real world. So that's okay. You don't have to be like everybody else. But everybody else doesn't have to be like you either. So you do you. Andy says proper antenna placement negates metal case problems. Well, it doesn't negate it. Proper antenna placement can improve. See, this is another misunderstanding. Just because you move the antennas away from the metal shield, still the metal shield is blocking that signal. So while you can improve the signal by moving the, I want you to think of it like water, okay? Instead of thinking of it like radio waves, think of it like water. If the water is hitting something metal, right? So the water keeps hitting this dam, but the bottom of the dam is dirt. The water is going to go under the dirt and come out, but it's still not going up here. The dam is still holding the water back, but the water can get through. So you can improve your radio signal of the antennas by lowering the antennas below the metal, but the metal is still working as a shield, regardless of the antenna placement, unless the antennas are external. The minute you put the antennas external, then you are correct. But so long as you're behind the shield, regardless if you're above it, well, you can't be above it. You could be at the top, the front, the back, or at the bottom. Then that can make a difference in the signal, but it doesn't negate. And that's the phrasing I'm having a problem with. It doesn't negate it. It can improve the signal strength moderately. But in order to negate it, you need your antennas on the outside, if that matters to you. So once again, your average consumer doesn't really think about stuff like this. They're going to plug it in, they're going to hook it up to their Wi-Fi, and if the Wi-Fi range doesn't work, they're probably going to move it closer to the Wi-Fi or buy a better router, or they could buy a USB external wireless network interface card, plug it into one of the various USB ports, and that solves that problem by just putting your antennas externally.
So there's a lot of different ways to negate it properly that's actually factual. And then there's the feeling, right? Well, the feeling is if I move the antennas, I negate it. And the feeling is not fact. The feeling is the factual part of that feeling is you're improving the signal strength. But you'd have to take the metal casing off. As I mentioned, this is not metal, this is plastic. So this is not an argument that applies in this particular mini PC we're reviewing today. But sometimes the audience goes off on a tangent and I'll follow you because I'll go for the ride. All right, is this what we're imagining now? Prove it. Move your antennas around and show me your signal strength on a metal case. And then move your antenna to the outside of the case and show me how those two things are equal. Anytime you're behind a metal case, it'll always be a deficit. And usually a quite significant one, quite noticeable. But if your router's just right over here, you probably won't notice it anyway. Or if you have a nice mesh router, if you have a nice, if you bought yourself a really nice mini PC, and again, if you want to be intolerant, that's easy. Rich people can be intolerant. If you want to keep throwing money at things, you can be as intolerant as you want to be. If you say McDonald's isn't good enough for me, fine, go to a more expensive dining experience if you can afford it. If you say a Chevy isn't good enough for me, fine, buy a Lexus if you can afford it. So if you're somebody that's going to be that finicky over antenna placement, you probably are that finicky over the router, and you wouldn't have that problem to begin with because you would have bought higher end equipment because of your attitude of not accepting anything less. But that, again, isn't an option most consumers have. Most consumers are buying the cheapest thing they can buy, and they just expect it to work the same as if it was the same as a device that was very expensive. And you and I both know that's not the case. So if you're going to buy less expensive things, if I buy my Chevy, I know it's not a Lexus, and not to expect a Lexus out of that, because that would just be what I call common sense. And if I buy a Rolls Royce, the more I spend, the more intolerant I can be. It's very simple. If you don't have the money, then you can't afford to be intolerant. Well, you could try. I just don't know how you're going to enforce that. So, a lot of it has more to do with your financial means than your feelings. Because if you can't back that up with cash, then it's unreasonable. It's an unreasonable expectation. And life is going to be full of disappointments. I'll tell you that. Calvin wants to know where this ACEMAGIC K1 mini PC origin. Well, they're all the mini PCs are made in China. Where are they shipping from? I don't know. Some manufacturers choose to have Amazon warehouse and ship for them. That's an added fee that Amazon makes money on. And it's called, it's like a 3-letter, I'm going to Google it. I can't think what it's called. What is the term for Amazon to warehouse and ship a manufacturer's item, a manufacturer's product? Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. So if you search for Amazon FBA, that's Amazon Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. And that's where a manufacturer pays Amazon and ships Amazon a certain amount of product. Now, this leads us into a whole nother depth of discussion, which is how long does Amazon hold that product? Forget about what it costs, because it depends on what the item is and how much space it takes and how many warehouses you want it in, because Amazon has warehouses all over the world. So fulfillment by Amazon isn't just in the USA, but I'm going to speak on behalf of what I know, which is the USA version of it. Sellers are not required to fulfill by Amazon. But if they choose to, customers are more likely going to buy because the shipping and returns are also done by Amazon. So everything's faster and smoother. But I've ordered things on Amazon that ship directly from the manufacturer. And you'll know because it takes a while. The shipping takes a while, and sometimes there's a shipping cost, whereas fulfilled by Amazon, usually there's no additional cost, usually. But what will happen is, if a manufacturer if they've shipped a bunch of products to Amazon and those products aren't selling, after a certain number of months, Amazon says you need to pay us to continue to store this in our warehouse because we can use that space for somebody else. And if the price Amazon wants negates any amount of profit you'll make, what some of these sketchy Chinese sellers do, and they're always Chinese sellers that do this, is they'll pick a random address out of the phone book, or not the phone book, but I don't know where they're getting the address from. But again, you've probably seen this on your local news station, where somebody says, Amazon boxes just started to arrive by the hundreds at my door, and it's the same one or two products. It's flashlights or hats. And the Amazon driver keeps dropping them off, and it's not funny. Like, we'll come home from work, and we can't even see our front porch. And we don't have anywhere to put them. We call Amazon, and they're, we're getting nowhere. And they call the local news station to say, can you help make this stop? This is against Amazon's policy. But what that third-party seller is doing is they're emptying the Amazon warehouse before the payment becomes due. And it's not costing them anything. So they've already, when they made the deal with Amazon, the shipping was included. So what's cheaper for the seller to do, although it's against Amazon policy, if Amazon finds out about it, is to have Amazon deliver that, just get it out of the warehouse. Because if they tell Amazon, just destroy it, we don't want it, Amazon charges for that. But if they tell Amazon to just deliver it all to this address, then Amazon delivers it at no cost. And the person at that address is stuck with it. That's fulfilled by Amazon. But it would have to be a cheap item, like a mini PC. It wouldn't just, I'm talking about like a $2 flashlight, a $3 scarf. That probably cost them $1. They being the Chinese sellers, they need to get it out of the warehouse before Amazon fines them. After a certain period of time, Amazon warns them, you need to move the product or you need to pay us. And so they'll just have Amazon ship it for free as part of their original contract before the contract ends. And some poor soul comes home from work one day to find hundreds of Amazon boxes arriving daily, emptying that inventory out. That won't happen when it's being sold directly from a manufacturer. Now, when we look at a seller like this, there's one that comes to mind. If I come back over here to Amazon, let's jump over to window capture again. And let's go to, let's go over here. Let's go to Amazon. And there's a brand of peanut butter that comes out of Grand Rapids, Michigan called Koeze, Koeze, peanut butter, over 100 years old. And Mara has to be very careful over what she can eat because she can't have anything of high carbs or high sugar. And a lot of the peanut butters that are sold in the grocery stores like Jif and Skippy and all those others, they contain palm oil and all this other weird stuff. It's not healthy. And even like Procter & Gamble would go to court back in the day and say, to label this legally as peanut butter, it should have like 80% peanuts. And the court said, no, it's got to be at least 92% peanuts. Listen, I don't know about you, but it should be 100% peanuts, okay? I don't know what that other 8% is, but legally, I think the law says in the United States, it's got to be at least 92% peanuts. And Procter & Gamble went to court saying that's too high. We want to make it more artificial because there's a higher profit margin. Peanuts are expensive. And the court struck it down and said no. But still, 92% or more peanuts is legal. So what's the other 8%? So Koeze has a couple different brands, Cream Nut and Sweet Ella's, etc. But it's this company, they use coffee bean roasters from the 1930s, 1940s to roast the peanuts. And it's how they've done it since they began in the early 1900s. And they still exist in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And what makes them so special, when you click on a jar of this peanut butter and you look at the ingredients, there's only 2 ingredients in here. It's peanuts and salt. That's all there is. So what causes the peanut butter from going bad? pasteurization. That's what we learned, Louis Pasteur, right? So by pasteurizing it, it can stay fresh and you don't need to add all of those chemicals and all of those preservatives and all of the like palm oils and things to make it adhesive. And you know, they would have you believe this is healthy. It's protein. Well, if it's got the word protein on it, it's good, right? So they've got smooth peanut butter, they've got chunky peanut butter, they being koozie, and they've got organic peanut butter. And it just so happens there's only one store in town here in Phoenix that sells it, and it's about $10 a jar. It's sold in a glass jar, not a plastic jar. That also keeps the peanuts tasting fresher, longer. And you can get it in a box. So here's a case of 6 jars for $50, but notice there's a shipping fee of $11. And notice that if today is the 22nd, we won't see it till the 31st. We know that's not being shipped by Amazon. This is being shipped by the manufacturer out of Michigan. So we're paying the manufacturer for shipping, and the manufacturer is not paying Amazon for any warehousing. This ensures you get a fresh product, right? Because they don't have any control over what Amazon is doing to maintain the expiration dates and rotation of the product because it's food. And Amazon does not allow returns of food because it would be dangerous. But all this has, if you look right on the front, it says ingredients, organic peanuts and sea salt. Now, maybe as a little kid, peanut butter was peanut butter, but as an adult, whether or not this is healthy, I don't care. Mara cares. What I care about is it's the best peanut butter you've ever had in your life, which also Mara agrees with. And it says here, since established in 1916, I believe is what that says. So they're over 110 years old, this company. It doesn't hurt that it's from my home state of Michigan. And if you've never had this, you've never had real peanut butter, is all I'm trying to say. Like, this is in a class of its own, from the using coffee bean roasters to using glass jars. And the fact that this is the one product that they've been consistently making pretty much since day one. They've introduced other products since then, but this one is a staple, or the series of peanut butter, you know, the smooth, the crunchy, the organic, the non-organic. They all just contain peanuts and salt, Virginia peanuts to be specific. Okay, so the reason I mention this is not a fulfilled by Amazon, and that's how you can tell, right? Just look at your delivery days. And the fact that shipping's not free. Although they could do shipping for free, that's their choice. If they just change this price to include the cost of shipping, they can include the shipping for free, but the delivery time is going to be much longer than what you're accustomed to with Amazon. All right, so I just wanted to give that as an example because that was fresh on my mind. We just ordered that. And at about $10 a jar, it costs about the same at the grocery store. Only it shows up at my door and I don't have to go get it. So, and there's only one grocery store. Out of all the grocery stores that are around Phoenix, only one particular grocery store sells it. So this is far more convenient for me to click the button. It's pretty much the exact same cost either way. It's just how much effort I have to put into going to get it. And she goes through it, let me tell you. And I think if you've ever had it, you'd agree, you'll have it again. It's good stuff. But Amazon does not fulfill those orders. That was really the point I was trying to make before I got carried away with just tasting the peanut butter. Squirrel. Squirrels and nuts. What do you expect? All right, let me get back over to the chat, see if there's other questions. Our friend Buster's checking out for the evening. Yeah, we are getting close to our 2-hour mark, and I haven't even powered this on yet. So I should start putting it back together. I just wanted to make sure there were no other questions while we've got it apart before we continue. All right. I don't see anything else. Let me just double check.
To Be Home says I should buy the 32 gig version to see if it comes with 1 or 2 SO-DIMM modules. Yeah, I mean, it could be either way. I mean, my guess is they're just using the same module, and they're just using it twice instead of having multiple inventory items, but I really don't know. Cost-wise, that would make the most sense if I was the manufacturer, but I'm not the manufacturer, and I don't know the ins and outs of their vendor purchasing. But I would, if I had to like put a bet on it, I would bet we just get the same module twice. But it's a bet because I don't know. And again, and I can't stress enough, I don't really think it matters. It seems a lot of people, and I've got to guess you guys are older, right? You've got to be probably over 40 years old to have this mentality that this is important. Because soldered on RAM is faster, it's cheaper, and it's more reliable. They can also sell the unit for less money and make it thinner. All of these sockets cost money. All of these sockets are a point of failure. When you can remove the points of failure and we can reduce manufacturing costs and you can increase the speed of the RAM, all at the same time, and sticking onto an old school method that used to make sense back when you learned that, I don't know when you learned it, it doesn't apply anymore. I can't see any reason why anybody would need to upgrade from 16 gigs of RAM unless they were particularly intolerant or refused to let go of old ways and accept the way modern software and hardware work together. You're just going to pull anything you need right off your NVMe drive. And if you're that demanding, why are you buying a computer that's a mid-range machine? Why aren't you buying a high-end machine? That would make sense that you would be that finicky on a high-end computer. But to be that finicky on low to mid-range, these things are not aligned in value. You're buying a lower-end machine, but you want higher-end RAM and capacity, which if you use the money for the RAM and the capacity to buy a higher-end machine, you wouldn't need that much RAM or capacity. In theory, it would already be inherent into the more expensive machine. So my personal feelings is that's just an outmoded line of thought that applies to older computers. Today's modern computers and modern operating systems, they don't need that anymore. Those days are behind us now. And there are a few exceptions, but those exceptions will be people who also require high-end machines. If you say, I've got to have 64 gigs of RAM, and I've got to have 4 terabytes of fast Gen 5 storage, you won't be buying an i5. Or you have no understanding of the concept of what you're buying. One of those two things. It's got to be one or the other. It's like you want to buy the cheapest hot dog, but put the most expensive condiments on it. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. You want to eat fast food, but you want it on expensive China plates. Expensive China. What's the word? Not flatware. Just diningware. Really? You want to go to a fine dining restaurant and just place your McDonald's bag on the table? These things don't align. One with one with the other. I don't put a dress shoe on my right foot and a tennis shoe or sneaker on my left foot. Anyway, that's just the way I see it. You're welcome to see it however you want. Maybe you think I'm crazy. I'm okay with it. But I think it's crazy to try and mix and match high end and low end. Pick a lane. That's all I'm trying to say. Look at me making friends everywhere I go. All right, let's see what else do we have here in the chat. Bajan Guy joins us and says hello. Slavko joining us and say hello. Welcome in, everybody. Okay, I guess, you guys are talking about something else, so I can start putting this back together. And let's go back to our close-up. Oh, I'm on the wrong feed. Hold on a second. Okay. Where to start? Well, because this end is going to face down, probably best to put it back together in the exact reverse order that we took it apart. Oh, I don't want that on there anymore. Okay. Be sure you don't snag your antenna wire underneath the screw and pinch it. And I keep putting my fingers on this thermal pad, which I should not be doing. This isn't thermal paste, it is a thermal pad, but finger oils and dust on it obviously affect its efficiency, its efficacy, and we just want to keep that as clean as possible. Fingerprints don't hurt it, but they don't help it, okay? That's all I can tell you. Let's see, what do I want to do next? I guess we're going to put this in with the front this way, so that's going to go in. I'm not quite sure how those antennas were run. Be very mindful of the antennas. They're very fragile. There's a little cutaway in the circuit board, which I'm guessing is for the wires to fit through. And make sure that the wires don't get in the way of your ports. So just check all that right now before you go much further. So I'm going to look at that. Oh, looks like hold on. Very carefully, again, I can feel the tension when I pull on these wires. There's a little power button right here that fell off, and that it's meant to fall off. It's got two little holes that fit over these little tabs that stick out. Set this down for a second so I can use both hands, and that just fits in right there. Now I'm going to try again. And again, me putting this face down onto the desk, I just put the thermal tape onto the desk, so when I picked it up, it kind of stuck a little bit. So let's turn this around. Again, I'm not worried about these wires. These are strong wires. These are the wires I'm worried about. So when I feel tension on these, I realize I'm just pulling a little too hard on it. I need to get to the front. This is the back. This is the front. So with everything being attached here, it's definitely, not a very easily serviceable unit. Just keep that in mind. It's a budget machine. It's actually a mid-range machine at a budget price. And if you want to spend more money, you could probably buy a machine that's easier to get into. I don't think you'll find one equivalently spec'd out with RAM storage and this processor at a cheaper price that's easier to get into. But if you do, please don't keep that to yourself. I'd like to know about it. The less expensive the computer is, the more you're getting for your money. You have to understand that you're making a sacrifice somewhere. So at this price, it's hard to complain. All right, so what I want to do now is just check and make sure all my ports are aligned. And they will sort of go through just a little bit of the holes, the USB port there. Now, the antenna wires themselves kind of stick up, and you can leave that be, or you can sort of try and tuck them in. That's what that little tape was for. It's up to you how you want to do that. But for me, if I can just make sure they're not going to get snagged on anything, they're not in the way of anything, it's fine. I don't have to put it back exactly. And then this piece, to put this in, this probably has a groove in it that slides in a track, would be my guess. And then when I close this back up, those little ports will go through those holes just a little bit. I can see this came out. This end right here came out. And what's happened is now the internal, those USB ports went through those little holes. Like I said, it only goes through a little tiny bit, but it's enough to sort of lock it and hold it. So I just want to pull back on this lid a little bit, loosen that back up, and then try and bring it down more about the same time, making sure, first of all,
that end is tucked in. There we go. That's much easier to push down now that it's in this, these edges are in their grooves. And when I push down, the clicking sound you're hearing is probably the little clips that I had to remove. And you may also be hearing the recession of these ports into these holes. So it's not difficult. It's just not as easy as others. I guess that's the best way I could explain it. But I'm a professional computer tech, and opening up computers is what I do. So my perspective of easy may be different than yours. So before I put it back together, I want to look and see if there's any sort of seam that isn't fitting right. And the reason I mention it is I see everything's nice and tight like it was new, except for here it isn't. So something is preventing us from closing correctly. And I just want to see if it's you know what it might be is that power cable. Yeah, the power cable's right here, right? Remember, there's a power cable that runs over here. And it looks like it might be snagging on something, and it's causing there to be a seam. Again, I don't know how well the computer's picking this up, or the camera right here. Versus over here, I can't even get this in. Now, some of you might say, close enough, Carey. I don't do close enough. And I wouldn't want a surgeon or a dentist to do that either. So if it's not right, it's not good enough. So I want to find out what's holding us. So the first thing you try is just see if it snaps in. It is absolutely refusing to snap in. So something isn't seating correctly. So let me, before I put this thing back together, it's a lot easier right now to just pull it back apart and take a look over on this side to see what I might be missing. I mean, I'm missing something because it wasn't this way when we took it apart. And if you can't put it back together the way it came apart, you shouldn't be taking it apart. Or, you know, look, if it's yours, you do whatever you want with it. But if you're doing work for somebody else, you shouldn't be, if that's your attitude. It's like, hey, let me do you a favor and give you a disease. Thanks. What a friend. All right, let's see if we can get this back off. Still stuck on there. So now I'm being stuck by this side clipped in, right? Which I just forgot about. Probably gonna have to unclip it first. There we go. Now I can get the ports separated. And if I look to see what could be possibly getting in my way, I want to verify that this motherboard is seated all the way down. Because what I noticed when I took the lid off is this was bowed a little bit here. And the only reason this would bow is that a piece inside is not fully seated. So it was very instinctual for me to just push down on this. Then the piece straightened out. So it wasn't this cable at all like I thought it was. It was the heatsink was not seated all the way down. Because there's no screws to secure this in, that's one of the downsides, I suppose, of not having screws secure it, is it may not be fully seated. And it's when you're putting it back together, again, none of this is rocket science. None of this requires a higher end of education, but it does require you're paying attention, you're using care and patience, and you have proper tools, and that it matters to you that you do a quality job, right? Some people don't care. I care. Now, when I push it down and I look, again, I want to make sure our antenna wires aren't blocking any of the ports, that they haven't somehow moved. I want to push down the tops and corners and sides just to hear any clicks to make sure everything's clicked in. And now it's back to like new. So at this point, we can take the screws and put it back together, stick the rubber feet back on it. Now this puts us at just over 2 hours and we haven't powered it on. And you know, when I power this on with the series of tests we have to run, we're probably looking at another 90 minutes. So I think we're gonna have to break this into a part 2, given how much explanation and detail had to come into the disassembly process. And the reason that's important to me is if you Google this model or go on YouTube and search for any reviews on this, you'll see very few people ever open it up. A lot of people that have reviewed this either don't have the product and they're just showing pictures, and may not even be a real voice, maybe an AI voice, or they're turning it on and they're showing you how it operates. So because there is a lack of disassembly video and teardown and upgrade, that is a priority for me to cover what other people aren't covering. With regards to turning it on and looking in the device manager, we'll see who makes the Wi-Fi card, who makes the NVMe drive, the speed of it. I mean, we're looking at another 90 minutes, and that's more commonly found on most review channels. Although even then, sometimes they don't talk about it. So I think we'll break this into a part 2 that we can follow up on. Obviously, we can't do that tomorrow. That's our members only videos tomorrow. But then Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, we can come back and see what the schedule's like and come back and do a part 2 on this. So we have both sides covered. Definitely get your money's worth out of this one, out of this review, because it's going to be very thorough. Not that the other reviews are less thorough. It's just the disassembly on this is, like I say, more involved and took more time. I didn't think it'd be that hard. I honestly thought when we removed the screws that the silver lid would come off and give us access and we'd put it right back on and be done. I wasn't expecting all of this. It's not a, for me anyway, this doesn't change whether or not I recommend it to a customer. My customers will never open this up. My customers will call me when they need service. That's my job. That's how they became my customers. I can't speak for you guys. Because I already know that, I also can't speak to if you like it or you don't like it. And you know, you're welcome to say whatever criticisms you have. It doesn't change my perspective at all. Again, I'm not here for you to agree with me. I'm not here to try and convince you. I'm here to just demonstrate what you should expect. If that's unacceptable to you, it's not the right product for you. Not a big deal. I don't think ACEMAGIC's doing anything wrong. And you know, it really depends where your priorities are. And for most customers, the priority is going to be value. So if you are aware of a similar mini PC spec'd out with 16 gigs of DDR4 socketable RAM, because that does cost more than soldered RAM, 1 terabyte or more of storage, that's Gen 3 or better, with the processor we have in here, which was, what did we say it was? I've already forgotten. So many damn processors. Does it say on the bottom? A Core i5 12600H, 16 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, not 1 terabyte, 512 gigs, NVMe Gen 3. You see the price. If you're aware of any other mini PC manufacturer that matches these specs at a lower price, please send us an email and let us know. And then we can figure out if that one's easier to open than this one. And if that's the only difference is how they open, but otherwise they're the same for the same price, then I would say this one's inferior, if that's true. But so far as I know, it doesn't exist. So you can get a more expensive computer that does that, or a computer that's not spec'd out as nicely. Okay, so let me put my tools away. And if you have any final questions for me regarding the hardware on the ACEMAGIC, I invite you to ask away. Or if you have other unrelated questions, this will be the time to ask, and I will dedicate the rest of the show to what's ever on your mind, if it's anything I can help with. So we'll get into the noise, you know, the fan noise. We'll get into what version of OS is installed. Is it Home or is it Pro? Is it 24H2? Is it 25H2? How fast is the NVMe drive? We know it's Gen 3, but that has a variance. We can run Cinebench on it. Again, we got another 90 minutes of testing on this, so we will break that up into a part 2. Slavgo says, I don't like the short wires. Unfortunately, you have to have short wires. If they made the wires any longer, they would probably get tangled up either with the ports or with the fan. And so as a result, you've got to make those wires short. You don't really have a lot of choice, or you've got to get really creative with how you take up all the slack. And if you do that, then it means reassembling that means you have to reroute the wire slack. Pretty much it's only going to go one way. It's sort of like when you see me put everything back in the box and I can't seem to get everything to fit, even though I had no problem getting it out of the box, trying to put it back into the box it can feel impossible. Like this just isn't going to fit because it went in a very specific way. When you deal with longer wires, in order for you to make that work, you're going to have to go into a very specific way that's going to make your assembly far more complex. So again, pros and cons, and depending on your level of comfort, you probably shouldn't be opening it up to begin with. Again, I think opening up a computer to do those kind of upgrades is a ship that sailed long ago. If your fixation is on opening this up, in my opinion, you should not be buying this model. If you're the kind of person that wants to open up a computer these days, buy a higher end computer. If what you're buying isn't good enough, why are you buying it? It's far cheaper for you to just buy what you need than to take something and make it what you need it to be. Unless it's just a fun little project for you, and money be damned and value be damned because you're paying for your entertainment. In which case, we're on two completely different perspectives. My customers have no interest in opening up a computer. And unless it's coming in for a repair, it'd have to be outside of warranty. I'm not going to repair this. When it's in warranty, it's going to go back to the manufacturer. I don't get it, guys. If this was 1995, I'm totally behind you. You guys don't seem to want to let go of this old school mentality. It just doesn't play anymore. It doesn't make any financial sense other than your own entertainment. And again, in situations where someone says, I'm an exception because I need, then you must not care so much about the price. And at that point, why would you be buying a budget machine? It doesn't add up, man. It doesn't make any sense to me. So that's all I can tell you. You can say it all you want, but I still don't understand it. It's illogical. But you might be based on your feelings. And talking to me about feelings, I mean, I'm Gen X. I have one feeling. It's like talking to Mr. Spock. I don't get it. But it doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means I'm incapable of comprehending that logic because feelings are not logical. So I can't process that information to a customer, right? I can give them a feeling of reassurance. I'll say, if you buy this from me, I'm going to give you a good price. I'm going to take care of you for the entire ownership of the computer. I'm your guy. Anytime you have a problem, you call me. That's my job. That's how far the feelings go. That's it. I'm not sending you a birthday card, happy anniversary. Not in business, no. Brad wants to know, Carey, is replacing a CMOS battery something done on a preventive maintenance plan, or do you wait until it goes bad? I've got a 6-year-old laptop and was curious. I had a car in the shop, and it was having an engine replaced a long time ago. And I said to the mechanic, look, this is costing a lot of money. So if you see anything that's really worn out, let's not reuse it. Let's just replace it. And he kind of looked at me puzzled. He was like, really worn out? How do you define really worn out? I go, well, if it was your car and you see a part that you're like, yeah, this is probably going to go soon, I'll replace it. He goes, if it was my car, I wouldn't do that. What do you mean you wouldn't? You're the mechanic, wouldn't you? No, I wait for it to break. If it's not broken, I'm not replacing it. It's not a big deal for me to replace it. I'm a mechanic. It's another day at work. What do I care? So when you ask a computer technician, somebody who's in this industry as long as I've been, would I change out a BIOS battery or a CMOS battery as a preventative measure? I do that all the time. I replace BIOS batteries all the time. But I don't do it because it's fun. And I don't do it because I'm bored and looking for something to do. I do it because it's necessary. If it's not necessary, I don't do it. So when it comes to preventive measure, there's nothing a BIOS battery really helps with unless the computer is off and unplugged from power. So long as the computer stays plugged in, even when it's off, the BIOS battery it could be dead and you'd never know. But the minute you unplug power from the computer, maybe you're moving it, you go to plug it in and all your BIOS settings are lost, that's how you're going to know your BIOS battery is bad. So it's not like you're risking anything by not changing it. Now, if the machine is 20 years old and it's leaking acid all over your motherboard, different story. But that's more of a what do you call it when they take an old car and they clean it all out? It's been sitting in a barn for 20 years, like a recovery. That's not so much a repair. When you're rebuilding a car because it's been sitting for so long, and you have to go through everything to just verify, hey, the calipers still work and the transmission still works and the fluid hasn't gotten gunked up or filters haven't been plugged. Depending on what the part is, filters are cheap to change. But if we're talking about an oil pump that's inside the block, that's not an easy, simple fix. So you likely won't be looking for that problem. It's a problem you'll deal with once you verified you have a problem. And if you don't do it and your oil pump is blocked, your engine will seize and you'll have to replace the engine. It'll just lock up and you're done. A BIOS battery, those consequences, if it dies, there's not a big deal. So a couple of things to keep in mind. As a professional technician, I always inform my customers to leave their systems on 24/7. And this is done to prevent calls on Monday morning, because they'll shut off the computers on Friday after work. They'll come back Monday morning, and when they turn it on, that's when the problem happens. Or that's when they're made aware of the problem, is when they restart. So by leaving the computers on, those computers can get automatic Windows updates. There was a big out-of-band update yesterday. I don't know if you noticed, a big one. When Microsoft does this, it's critically important. Shouldn't be ignored. My customers will have gotten that update over the weekend, last night, or today, because they left their computers on. And those computers will automatically restart, but they don't shut off. When those customers come into work tomorrow, they'll have no idea anything happened. I'm less likely going to get the call. If the customer's BIOS battery died 3 years ago, they'd never know, nor would I, until the computer gets unplugged from the wall. So the short answer to your question is, if the battery's bad, I replace it. If the battery is not bad, I won't. And the only exception to that would be if I'm in the computer anyway. If I'm in there for some other reason, and that computer's really old, like more than 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and I'm getting in there for some other purpose, maybe I'm going to dust it out, maybe I'm, whatever the reason is that justifies opening it, would I change it while I'm in there? Yeah, probably. I mean, I'd at least grab my battery tester and check it. I can almost guarantee it'll need to be replaced. Let me rephrase need to be replaced. I can almost guarantee that the battery will not have the total amount of voltage it had when it was new and may not operate as expected if power is lost. So while I'm in there anyway, it's not that big of an effort to swap the battery, or at least put it on my battery meter and check the voltage. I don't expect the voltage will be good enough. And the batteries are cheap and they're easy, swap it out. If the battery is a proprietary enclosure that has a like a 2-wire pin on it, if I've got one, great. But I'm not going to suspend the work until I can order a battery, wait for it to arrive from Amazon, and then, you know, that's going to be at least a day or two. The customer's got to have their system back up and running for work. We don't have the luxury of playing around because we feel like it. There's got to be a justifiable reason to charge somebody some money, okay? And even if it's me, if it's a warranty job, Somebody's paying the bill for this. And if you can't look a customer in the eye and tell them honestly that that bill was justifiable and required, then you and I have a different set of ethics when it comes to running our business. And I wouldn't run my individual life any other way. I wouldn't recommend you sitting at home change your BIOS battery because of your anxiety. I think you'd be better off treating the anxiety because it's probably affecting you across other areas of life. If you've got anxiety about that, that's not a normal thing to worry about. Most people don't care. And then if it becomes a problem, then we deal with actual problems that exist. Like I said, unless we're in there for some other reason, and then we're already in, might as well take care of it while you're in there. So there's not a direct, straight answer, I guess. But just the overall viewpoint is we do what's necessary. Preventive measure maintenance would be things like keeping the antivirus and anti-malware software up to date, making sure temp files are being deleted, making sure the latest drivers are installed, making sure the latest BIOS is put in, making sure Windows gets all of its updates, and all of your other software. Chrome just got a big update. Make sure Chrome is updated. Every piece of software you run, when you run that software, if it's been more than a day, at least what I do is I click on Help and check for updates, or Tools and check for updates, or sometimes it's File and check for updates. And I don't care what piece of software that is. My file backup software, if it's a Cronus, my RoboForm software, although RoboForm seems to be really taking care of itself, I still audit and check. Otherwise, how would I know I've got the latest update? Any piece of software, Microsoft Office, go to File, Account, check for updates. That's preventive measure. Dusting, if you see the fans are getting dusty, blow it out with air. That's preventive. But physically changing parts to be preventive, not less like, let's say somebody's running out of space on their storage drive, and you can see that the way they're going, you say, hey, look, you got to delete a bunch of stuff. They go, I can't delete anything. I need it all. Okay, well, if we keep going, you're going to run out of space. You're going to get out of memory errors. So as a preventive measure, I suggest we replace your storage with a bigger one, but because we have to, because we foresee that is inevitably coming soon. But again, for most people, it doesn't apply. Most people aren't using 100 gigs of their hard drive, of their storage drive. Andy says, thank you, Carey and Mara. Thank you, Andy. Thanks for hanging out with us. Do many mini PCs come with SATA solid-state drives? It's based on the price. So the less money you're spending, the lower performance components you're going to get. Do most cars have 300 horsepower? Depends how much money you're spending. With RAM and SSD prices climbing, manufacturers are trying to find a way to get that price lower so the consumers will buy it. Most consumers wouldn't know the difference in performance between a SATA and an NVMe drive. Once again, when it's a brand new computer, it probably runs much faster than their old one, and they don't have any measuring stick of how to determine if it's faster than their perception of fast. Right? If you've been using the same computer for 8 or 10 years, 6 years, 5 years, and you buy a brand new mini PC with a SATA drive, it's going to be so much faster than the old computer. You'd be hard-pressed to complain that that isn't way better. You have to have a certain level of intolerance to care about such things. And again, if you care about such things, you need to pay for that. If you're wealthy and you want to be finicky, you can afford it. If you're poor, you cannot afford to be finicky. If you know how to be finicky and be poor, that tells me you're doing without a lot of things. You're just going without because nothing's good enough. And you can't afford what's good enough. So therefore you have nothing. If there's any other way to see that, if there's something I'm missing, please let me know. Because there's a lot of stuff I'd love to have that I cannot afford. I don't own a Tesla. I'd like to have one. I cannot afford one. Somehow I've learned to live without it. If it's important for you to have an NVMe drive versus a SATA drive, you're just likely going to pay a little bit more money. That's all. But for most people, they won't notice a difference. They'll notice the difference in the price universally. No one's doubting that. So some do have SATA SSDs on the lower end, but not on the higher end. All right, again, if there's other questions, we're happy to answer them at this time. Otherwise, we'll wrap up today's video. So how long more we have in today's video is up to you, the viewers and the participants in our chat room. You are now in control of when this video ends. If I don't see any questions, I guess nobody's got anything to say. That's okay. I'm okay with it. There's nothing worse than when I end the video and then I get a bunch of emails from people and I'm like, why didn't you just ask me this? And when I was asking for a question. Not always, though. Sometimes the emails are private matters and they're not meant for public discussion. But I'm just saying, when there are questions that could have been asked during a live show and they wait 5 minutes after I'm done to then send their question, it's a little frustrating for me. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else I might have missed. So there's a delay between when I speak and when you hear me, and I need to kind of stall a little bit to give you guys a chance, if you have questions, to hear me offer that and to wait for you to type it. So I'll stick around here just to stall a little bit. And John Lewis from Brazil has joined us and says hello. Good to see you, John. When is the last time you checked on the ACEMAGIC M5 13900HK? Well, we just did the video, didn't we? Didn't I just make that video last week? When did I do that? Let me go over to YouTube and look it up. YouTube, type in CareyHolzman M5. 6 days ago. So 6 days ago, to answer your question. Hasn't even been a week yet. David Herzog says, great show as always, Carey. Thank you, David. Thanks, of course, to Mara, our channel administrator, who does all the heavy lifting. She's the one that's doing all the research, being the liaison between the manufacturers and the channel to get us the product. So I can focus on making the videos and running my business. And I also appreciate that she sends out my invoices so I don't have to write up invoices. I hate paperwork. Mad Torian said, yeah, you did, but I was having a problem with a Windows update and I had to put a new copy of Windows 11 on it. So you have the ACEMAGIC M5 and you were doing an update and the update wasn't applying correctly, so you reinstalled Windows? And you're wondering if I had the same issue? I'd have to know which update, because it's been updated as of 6 days ago. The only update that came out in the last 6 days is the one that came out last night, or yesterday. It came out sometime yesterday. So, which is weird. isn't it, for Microsoft to release an update on a Saturday? But that's what they did. It was that important. That's why I say those updates, when they come out of band like that, out of band meaning it's not on the second Tuesday of the month, that's because they're a high priority, typically for security, or it's fixing something a previous update caused for some people. And if you're not one of those people, it may not affect you, but it also could affect you if you don't patch it. So better to patch it before it affects you, or to patch it, of course, after it affects you. And I suspect most of the time when you see out-of-band updates, it's generally because some new security concern, but more than likely because of a previous update has some flaky issue that is being caused by enough people, not by the general public, but by enough percentage of the general public that it's important enough to expedite that fix out. So I wouldn't take it lightly. So if you could tell me which update you had a specific issue with, well, let me put it this way. We haven't had any update issues that I'm aware of that I can remember, and that was just 6 days ago. But that's current as of yesterday, as far as there hasn't been any other updates to install until yesterday. And no, I have not taken it out of the box and done that, because if I did that every time there was an update, I'd have nothing else. There'd be no time for me to do anything else. But you're always better with a fresh install of Windows 11 anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if I was going to sell this unit to a customer, I would put Windows on it myself, just because I have to support it, and I don't want to trust what somebody else did. If you were working for me and you told me, Carey, I put Windows 11 on that, I would not sell it to my customer until I redid it myself, because I don't want my reflection of my quality reflected on you and the work you do, unless I specifically trained you, and over a period of time of auditing you, I am convinced you are now doing it the same way I do it. I don't trust it. So while I don't typically reinstall Windows live on camera unless I'm demonstrating how it's not a big deal and here's how you get the drivers, which we've done. I don't know if we did it on the M5. I absolutely will reinstall Windows before I support it for a customer. Now, that doesn't mean you have to. It also doesn't mean there wasn't a different way for you to solve your problem. You found one way to solve your problem. I'm not sure that I would have solved it the same way you did. You know, there are repair tools. Some people don't know how to fix Windows. They only know how to reinstall it. And that's okay. I mean, I'm not saying you're doing it wrong, but if you had asked me, how can I solve installing this update? I think you'd find that my answer to you would not have started with reinstall Windows. Feel free in the future to know that you're not on your own and you don't have to try and experiment with this, that you can reach out and ask us, what would Carey do? Because I'm going to do the least amount of work possible to get the job done as quickly as possible in order to make the most amount of money as possible for a customer who's waiting on to get my computer back. I got work to do. And installing Windows, it doesn't take as long as it used to. And especially now that we have the updated install media, right? And no sooner than we made that, then the update came out. You gotta love the timing. Microsoft releases the updated ISO that contains all of the previous updates, and then 2 days later, they release a new update that's not included. So you can't win this game. It's always a game of catch up. But there's always a half dozen different ways to fix a problem. And you found a way that works, but I don't know that that was the most efficient. It's better to find out, I don't know, sometimes it's better to see, okay, there's a problem with this file that's corrupt, or, to run a PowerShell command to do a Windows repair. Which, also can take a little while, but you're not sitting there watching it, right? Then doing a complete reinstall, which then means reapplying all the drivers and customizations that you do in your preferences. But yeah, we're current as of 6 days ago, and we didn't have any problems. Greg Jimmy said, I did a new computer setup and data transfer today for a client that purchased a Camrui Panova P2 mini PC that has 16 gigs of RAM and 512 of storage. Customer had 130 gigs of photos to transfer and everything went well. And I don't need to say it, but I hope that customer had those 130 gigs of photos copied and duplicated somewhere else as a backup. Tony wants to know when Mitch is coming back. Mitch is in Taipei, and then he's traveling to Hong Kong, and then he'll come back to Phoenix after that point. And Mitch usually is here to help us with builds, and we've had no builds to do. So even when Mitch comes back from his vacation, from his travel, we don't have anything for Mitch to do here, unfortunately. So if somebody orders a computer and we have, or maybe even an upgrade or a repair that Mitch can help with, and he's back in town and he's available, then we'll certainly have him back on. But right now, nothing is on the schedule. You never know what customers might order or request from day to day and from hour to hour. It's been pretty slow. I expect the rest of this year will likely be slow. And I don't mean for me, I mean for the industry. Anybody who you watch YouTube channels that do tech, probably noticing more and more of them are reading the news or pulling up some old hardware to refurbish or vintage computer, retro computer. They're just trying to find some content. We all have the same problem right now, and finding the content is pretty rough when the manufacturing is all stalled, almost completely stalled. Routers, networking gear in general, Wi-Fi in general, motherboards in general. Everybody's refreshing. AMD's refreshing last year's model. Intel's refreshing last year's model. There's nothing new. It's just new model. It just refreshed it. Yawn. You know, we've already been there and done that. We're seeing very few mini PC innovations. But Minisport always surprises us. And ACEMAGIC has been introducing some new models. But many of the other mini PC manufacturers are selling old models. Why? Because they're cheaper to sell, and that's what people are focused on, buying the cheapest thing. Your average consumer cannot afford the best. They just need something to get by. That is the bulk of what sells. And so if you're a manufacturer, and that's what consumers are buying, then that's what you're going to provide to get units moving. And for us, you know, when we look at a new machine that has a 4-year-old processor in it, because there's an interest in it, we'll review it if we're sent that to review. But I've got to tell you, it's not very exciting for me to show you a brand new Mini with a processor from 2020 in it. But because it does have a processor from 2020, it's less expensive. And people will say, thank you for making me aware of that. I thought I had to spend all this money when that's all I needed. And I didn't have to spend that extra money. So as long as there is a response to these kind of videos, we'll continue to make them. And the manufacturers of the hardware will continue to do what they have to make the sale. And that's involving, instead of novelty in the sense of new design and performance, it's novelty in rethinking the older hardware so they can sell it for a cheaper price, because that's all that's moving right now. And I expect that to last throughout 2026. And I would love to be wrong and for it to end sooner rather than later. The actual prediction is that it will last until summer of 27, a little bit more than a year. It's going to be tough for people to stay in business that do what I do. If you're focused on consumers, you might as well just close your doors. This is the time now to get business customers if you don't have any, because your business customers, they're not impacted by this at all. The only way my business customers are impacted is they're not growing. They're not hiring any new employees. They're not opening any new locations. They're just sustaining. Well, I can sustain if they can sustain. When they can't sustain, then I'm in trouble. But with YouTube and content creation, you know, the subject matter may have to change in order to remain relevant on YouTube. You know, if I'm talking about something very few people are interested in, that won't be enough to pay for the content, the cost that it costs me to make the content. So we're not there yet, but it is absolutely worrisome. And again, they'd say, well, what am I doing wrong? But you can look across the entire platform. Tech channels just aren't getting the views they used to. Just look at the view numbers that tech channels are getting compared to what they had this time last year. It's all of us universally. We're all taking a hit here, and how financially feasible that is depends on what your expenses are as a content creator. But when we get lots of free products to review and stuff, it sort of solves its own problem. But when the products stop coming out, I guess I can read the news to you, but you could read the news on your own. If you want bedtime stories, I guess we can do that. We might have to. So I am more appreciative than ever before to companies like ACEMAGIC for sending us the unit for review, because we're just not getting many in these days. So I have a lot more gratitude for the ones that do come in, so we can continue what we do, even though the demand for it is cut in half, basically. What are you going to do? Calvin says, why do people like to post videos on YouTube of upcoming Windows 12 when there's no announcement from Microsoft? They get paid every time you click on their video. They're not paid to be honest. They can lie. They could have no audio at all. They could have no video at all, just be audio with a black screen. If you click on it, they get paid. And the longer you stay on the video, the more they get paid. There's no requirement that they have to tell you the truth. There's no requirement that says they can't just make up lies. There's no punishment for lying. It's called freedom of speech. That's freedom to lie. So if you want to say a celebrity died, just search YouTube for a celebrity you know is alive and just type in that celebrity's name about sad death or something like that. And you'll probably find a YouTube video. Let me try it. Let me open up, because that's what gets you paid, are the clicks. Oh my gosh, Britney Spears died. Did she? No. But it's your responsibility, no differently than when say you're walking down the street and somebody says, hey, you want to buy a watch? And they open their jacket and they got a bunch of watches. You're buying stolen goods, you're buying fake. Oh, look, it's a Molex. It's a Rolex made in Mexico. You've got to be smart enough to accept responsibility for your decisions that you're making. It's not somebody else's responsibility. Some people do it for entertainment. They go, I wasn't lying, I was being sarcastic. If it went over your head and you didn't get it, that's not my problem, right? That's what people will say as an excuse for lying. But let's go to my Microsoft Edge, because that's not signed into YouTube, so I can just kind of get a general idea here. Let's type in Britney Spears death. Britney Spears is in the Epstein files, and it's worse than you think. This is really bad. That's pretty clickbaity. The truth about the 3 men who ruined Britney Spears. Yeah, it's not her fault. It's always somebody else's fault. It's gossip. It's just, there's a death hoax from 9 years ago. Is Britney Spears cloned? How about, here's a good one. Jim Carrey, fake. It's not a real person. It's a fake Jim Carrey. See, does that look like Jim Carrey to you? That doesn't look like Jim Carrey to me. That's somebody pretending to be Jim Carrey. No, it isn't. Here's a plastic surgery doctor talking about, is that plastic surgery or is that a clone? Is that an imposter pretending to be Jim Carrey? Why do they do this? So you'll click on it. Look how many views this has. This is a very effective way to get clicks. Just exaggerate, use hyperbole, lie, flat out lie, and you will get clicks. So if you type in Windows 12, people love to be lied to. They love it. And you will take that all the way to the bank if you do it. I'm not saying it's right. So this person says, it's official, Windows 12 system requirements just leaked. No, they didn't. This is totally a lie. And in one day, he got more views than I'll get on this video in a week. So which one of us is smarter? Now, Theo Joe is a pretty reliable source. If you're familiar with who's talking, then you should measure the validity of what you're hearing based on who you're hearing it from. I have no doubt, although I've not watched this video, that Theo Joe is answering this honestly. Despite the rumors, Microsoft is not, he's already explaining it, which is what I would expect because he's a trusted source of information. He's not beyond making mistakes, but I know who he is, and I know his history of previous videos and accuracy. Time for Windows 12. Some of these tech channels are just terrible. Like if you look at, and I don't want to call anybody out, but I'm going to call out UFD Tech just to see for the patterns. Every gaming handheld gets this wrong. Intel beat AMD and NVIDIA. Microsoft's making it worse. So how can Microsoft be making it worse when you go up, let's go up here and tell you what is the most used operating system on the planet. I mistyped it, it's okay. So when it comes to operating systems, Android dominates. So I should have said 4 computers. Well, it's still going to come up as Android, even though we're really referring to phones, but phones these days are computers. Let's try, what is the market share? Remember, Google's going to show you what you're looking for. So if you were looking for negative information, it's going to show you negative information. So try to be unbiased in your question. What is the market share of Windows 11? Just in general. So market share would be worldwide. I don't know this website. I don't know if the information is accurate or not. Looks like they're trying to sell something, so I'm going to just move around. This is back in September 3rd. Things have changed. Windows surpasses 55% on November 10th. Where do you think it is today? Windows 11 now leads on November 11th. Windows 11 hits 72% as of 6 days ago. I want you to think about 72 out of 100 computers. For every 100 computers, 72 of those are running Windows 11. It is the single most popular operating system that has reached this high of a market share since it came out just 4 years ago than any other operating system ever released on the planet. But let's talk again about how terrible it is. Right? Wasn't that YouTube video saying how Microsoft isn't doing well? They've never done better. This goes against reality. AMD wants you to pay attention to them. Every manufacturer wants to. What? You think Microsoft and Intel and NVIDIA are saying, don't pay attention to us? I mean, this is some pretty... look. If I was working with these folks, we wouldn't be working together anymore because I don't agree with the morals and ethics behind making videos like this. And yet, look how big and popular they are. So you don't have to be accurate, and you don't have to share the values that I have. they're titling their videos in a way that works better than they're doing better than me, okay? They're getting more views than I'm getting. And apparently they're unscrupulous as far as the information they're giving is a lot of opinion and gossip. There's not real facts to back this stuff up other than the facts that they don't like it. It's awful. Everything's bad. Everything's bad. Anyway, again, not to call them out specifically. I don't have a vendetta or anything, but this is all too common. And just because someone's got a big channel, I mean, they've got way more subscribers and way more average views than I have. So who am I to say what they're doing is wrong? Because clearly doing it wrong has led them to more success. Let me rephrase, doing it in a way that I think is wrong, that I would not put my reputation on as a professional computer technician, this would absolutely destroy my integrity as a computer technician. As a content creator, integrity is not so important. What matters is you're getting views, subscribers, and that results to you getting a bigger paycheck than me. And you know, if they're getting 3 times more views, that's at least 3 times more money. And it doesn't matter what the content is about. It's the same reason I don't film porn. I bet I could make a lot of money, but it doesn't sit well with my morals and ethics to sell that. Some things shouldn't be sold, in my view. That's how I was raised. So that's my standard. I don't hold that on anybody else. Anybody else can do whatever they want. And I can do whatever I want and look down my nose at it. It's like, honestly, anybody can do that. Anybody could make porn. Anybody can make videos like this. There's no real skill about the technology. The skill is in making the thumbnail and the title. And if you're good at that, the content doesn't matter. Content matters less, I should say. And you're not held accountable. So if you make false claims, or if what you're talking about is your opinion, and this is crap, and Windows 11 sucks, in the meantime, if you look at reality, there's never been a more successful operating system on the history of the planet. So which one is it? I'm going to default to reality. If you tell me it's raining outside and it's not raining out, I'm going to look out my window. It's pretty easy to dismiss your thoughts because what you're saying is imaginary. And what I'm seeing is reality. And I prefer to choose reality over imagination. Unless I'm reading a science fiction book. I mean, you know, in my line of work, if I did that to customers, I wouldn't have any customers. I'm just saying it's not a sustainable business model. But on YouTube, a sustainable business model is whatever gets clicks. That's it. Nothing else matters. As long as you're not violating any YouTube community guidelines, you are free to do whatever you want, and you will not be held accountable for any reason outside of the YouTube community guidelines. And if that generates clicks and revenue for you, you're not breaking any laws. And that's why you'll see videos on Windows 12. It's very simple. It's greed. They either want the attention, or they want the money, or both. Doesn't matter if what you're saying is true. If it pays better to lie and to exaggerate, some people are going to choose to lie and exaggerate. Not for the right reason, but you know, whatever. That's how I feel about it. Frank Jimmy said, I had a caller today a customer was looking to build a custom gaming PC, something for next generation games, for a budget of $1,000. I told them that's probably too low of a budget for a PC that plays next generation games. So they increased the budget to $1,500, thinking it would also cover my labor to do the build. I managed to configure a system on Amazon for $1,500, just for the parts. I prefer the customer buys the parts, and then I'll just charge for the labor. Yeah, I still think that's too low. If they want to play next generation games, you're going to want the latest graphics card, and that'll set you back right now more than $1,500 just for the graphics card. So you can play current generation games, maybe just barely, you know, at 1440p. But if you want to go higher than that, you're going to have to spend a lot more money. But, you know, I want a Tesla and I only want to pay $10,000 for it. Brand new, never used. I can want. My mother used to tell me as a child, you can want in one hand, or she'd say you can wish in one hand and crap in your other hand. Let me know which hand fills up first. So that might speak to my attitude. I was told that as a child growing up. My mother would look down at my 6-year-old self and say, Mom, I wish I had that. And my mom would say, well, you can wish in this hand and crap in the other one. And you let me know which one fills up first. And that's how I was spoken to as a child. Shouldn't surprise you, that's how I speak as an adult. Because that's how adults spoke to me then. It's just cutting to the truth, which is you want to get a job and you want to go earn all that money, and then you can go get whatever you can afford. And if you can't afford it, I guess you're going to have to put your money away, make some sacrifices, sell some things, come up with a creative solution, work harder, work more, save your money. It's not our problem. That's a you problem. Can't help you with it. Frank says, I told him RAM, solid state drive, CPU, and a low-end video card would be $1,100, which was already over their initial $1,000 budget. Yeah, I have them shop around. More than likely, it'd be cheaper for them to buy a pre-built at this point. Building is just getting too expensive. You know, if they want more for their money. Hey, Barry Klein joins us and says hello. Beamer says, welcome to YouTube, Carey. Right? Oh, I know. I've probably been here longer than most of you. I started this channel in January of 2008. I've been here a long time, and it's changed over the years. It's not the same place it used to be. One of my favorite stories, and I published a link to it. Let's see if I can bring it up here. You see, when companies change their processes, then people find a clever way to take advantage of the process. And I love this story. It is despicable and genius. It's like evil genius kind of story. One of the places I like to go for the kind of news I like to read is what's happening in the real world, like to companies, not to individuals whining on social media. Most of that's just user problem. They lack the knowledge and refuse accountability, and I'm kind of just done babysitting people. But when it comes to corporations, I want to find out what's going on for real, and I'll go to Bleeping Computer and look at the news here. And I like that there's no opinion pieces here for the most part. I mean, there might be an exception here and there, but a lot of this isn't covered in your local news, but it is news that is released, and then news organizations choose not to run the stories. But this is the one I love. A musician admits to $10 million streaming royalty fraud using AI bots. $10 million. Let's talk about this. Let me just read it aloud. North Carolina musician Michael Smith has pleaded guilty to collecting over $10 million in royalty payments through a massive streaming royalty fraud scheme on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. The 54-year-old he purchased hundreds of thousands of songs that were generated using AI from an accomplice. He then took all those hundreds of thousands of songs and uploaded them to all those streaming platforms, and then used automated AI bots to stream them back down billions of times. So according to court documents unsealed, and he was charged in September 2024, he fraudulently inflated listening stats on his songs on these digital platforms for 7 years, from 2017 to 2024, with the help of an unnamed music promoter and the chief executive officer of an AI music company. To avoid detection by the anti-fraud systems, he also had the bots access the streaming platforms using virtual private networks. Then October 4th, 2018, he emailed his conspirators to say, hey, to not raise any issues with the powers that be, we need to get a ton of content with small amounts of streams. And he added that we need to get a ton of songs fast to make the work around the anti-fraud policies that these guys are all using now. So at the peak of the operation, he had over 1,000 bot accounts to artificially boost streams. On October 20th, 2017, he also emailed himself a financial breakdown outlining how he operated 52 cloud service accounts, each of which had 20 bot accounts. He estimated that each bot could stream around 636 songs per day for a total of approximately 661,440 streams per day. With an average royalty rate of half a cent per stream, the daily earnings would reach $3,307.20, with monthly earnings reaching $99,216, and the annual earnings would exceed $1.2 million per year. He just took advantage of a system. He's agreed to pay back $8 million and in fact faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison after pleading guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Oh man. It's not sustainable. You can get away with ripping people off for a very small period of time, maybe, but you cannot sustain it. You will always get caught every single time. Do you think he would have ever stopped on his own? Do you ever think he would have said, that's enough money, I'll stop now? No. No, they just get greedy. It's too easy. And the longer they do it, the odds of getting caught go up and the punishment is harsher. It's just a really stupid attitude to have in life, to not think about consequences. Tomorrow's another day. And your life might be great today because you stepped on somebody to get where you are, but I can almost promise you, you're going to pay a price for that eventually. And it will come with interest when it happens. If you're ahead of the game right now, stop. Voluntarily stop while you're ahead, and maybe there's a chance you'll get away with it. Maybe. Certainly the odds are better. But how can you be so intelligent and so stupid at the same time? It doesn't make any sense. How can you be that smart and be that dumb? Just really thinks they're outsmarting everybody. Good thing they're smarter than they're the smartest person in the room. Yeah. We'll see if that plays out tomorrow. Here says $1,500 for a graphics card is incredibly too high, more like $400 or $500. I don't know where you're buying graphics cards, but the current generation of graphics cards, like even the past generation, if you're looking at budget graphics cards, I understand your perspective. But let me just jump over to Amazon again. Let's go back over. Let's see, how can we do this? Let's go back over to our window capture again. And let's go to Amazon. And let's see, how much is a RTX 5080? Just curious. 1500, 1644, 1400. What if we go the previous generation? What about a 4080? What are those going for? Oh, that's a 50. That's a 50. So here's a 4080 for 1500. Here's a 4080 Super for almost 2000. Now, if you want to drop down your graphics card to like a 5060, if you want to cut your performance in half or by 2/3, you probably get it really cheap. Yeah. Although, with 16 gigs of RAM on it, you're looking at $1,000. But you're going to get what you pay for. What this card is capable of, and what this card is capable of, is represented in the price. They're not the same card. It's 5060 Ti. This is not a Ti. And if you really want to go crazy, about a 5080, is there a 5090? $4,000 just for the card. So I don't know where you're doing your shopping or what you define as a graphics card, but you can also use onboard video for free that's built into your AMD or Intel processor, and you can save a lot more money. So I'm not sure what your point was. You get what you pay for. Unless you know something the rest of us don't know, you're paying the same price the rest of us are for the same equivalent, identical performance. So again, I do what I can to prove everything I'm saying is accurate. So I'm trying to take the burden off of you. Normally the burden is on the viewer. You do the research, but I'll do it for you just to make sure that we're all on the same page, that I'm not making stuff up. This isn't based on my feelings. It doesn't really matter how I feel about it. If I'm happy about graphics cards being the price they are, or I'm sad about graphics cards being the price they are, is the same as being happy that it's raining outside or being sad that it's raining outside. It's still going to rain outside regardless. And it's a question of how I want to deal with it, right? So I can deal with it by crying and feeling sorry for myself that I can't go outside and play. Or I can say, rain is fun and I'm going to jump in the puddles. There is attitude. And a lot of problems we're hearing about online, especially on social media, are just examples of attitude, not of facts. But hey, I can't change that any more than I can stop it from raining. But we can be aware of it and we can choose to respond to it accordingly. Creamer said, I bought a Gigabyte RTX 5070 on Amazon with 12 gigs of RAM. It was nowhere near $1,500. I like how you used the word was. I bought a whole tank of gas for $40. Not lately. Send me a link or give me the make and model so I can go look that up on Amazon and verify that that's $1,500 today. Or maybe you weren't trying to say you bought it today. Maybe you're saying I paid less for it before the shortages. Well, so did all of us. It wasn't just you. You're not telling us anything we don't already know. When I bought a candy bar in 1975, it was 25 cents. Didn't matter what candy bar it was. They were all 25 cents. But this ain't 1975. And that same candy bar is like $2. $1.50, $2. This isn't news to anybody, right? We already know this. It's when you start sounding like an old man. How much did you pay for that shirt? The shirt was $50. $50. When I was your age, a shirt like that cost a nickel. How old are you? When I was your age, I was a year younger than that. I hear that and I'm like, wow, it sounds like an old man. All right. In my mind, I don't want to have to, if I realize I'm sounding like an old man, I chuckle to myself because I'm like, oh boy, I'm becoming a stereotype. I should watch that. You may not care. All right. Well, I think with that, yeah, Frank Jimmy says, get off my lawn. Well, trespassing is trespassing, right? Forget about the lawn. How about the fact that you're trespassing? When has that ever been okay? Only old people care about trespassing? See, as long as I justify it, then it's okay. It's never okay to trespass. But when you say get off my lawn, you're just telling somebody stop trespassing, which seems like a very legitimate thing anybody should be concerned about. It's how you say it. All right, with that, I think it'll wrap it up for today. Thank you again to ACEMAGIC for sending us the unit. We will follow up with powering it on for the very first time. I'm not going to power it up until we go live again with part 2. This will stay powered off. We'll do the full power on, first time power on, live on camera, just like we always do. And we'll spend that 2-hour show answering questions and running tests. We'll measure the noise, performance, all of that. And that's how you get a thorough review. We're not here making commercials. That's what the short videos are for. Those are, we always used to have short videos that used to break up the TV shows we'd watch. We called them advertisements or commercials. And that's when we'd get up and get a drink or go to the bathroom or hit fast forward on the VCR. Today, these kids today, they just want to watch commercials. Why is this video 3 hours long? Oh, because it's educational. Why is school 7 hours for the day? How long is school? 7 hours, isn't it? You go to school at 8 a.m. and you get out at 3 p.m. It ain't a TikTok video. It's education. It's not an entertainment. Though no one says it can't be entertaining to learn. Some people are like, I don't want to learn. I want to stay stupid. Just keep me entertained, monkey boy. And I'm like, you're on the wrong channel, man. I'll entertain you, but I'm going to trick you into some education while we're there, and you're going to be here a while. No, I'm not. Well, then stay stupid. I don't care. Anyway, and that includes, you know, me learning live on camera too. So you see, I'm not born with any special talent. I learned it the same way anybody else does. So I don't expect anybody to learn any differently or to know through osmosis. Thank you for the kind words, everybody in the chat. Appreciate your support and your kindness. Thank you to everybody in green, the members of the channel, for supporting us. Thank you to ACEMAGIC and Mara. Thank you to Buster and Mark Gaines for their support of the channel. And thank you everybody else joining us as friendly individuals in our chat room. We love having you here. If you ever want to reach out to us with a computer problem or a topic idea, those aren't generally best placed in the comments section. It's not a question section, it's a comment section. People don't seem to understand the difference these days. But if you want to reach out to us, we make it very easy. We're very open. We have an open door policy here. You just send us an email. Right there is the email address. And we'll get back to you very quickly. Usually well below, I'd say 24 hours, but even less than a few hours. We usually get back to most people very, very quickly, within moments, certainly within a few hours. And happy to help out. We're always happy to hear from our viewers, members or non-members. If there's something we can help you with, we love to help. If there's an idea you have that, you know, like, hey, you should cover this topic, if we can, it certainly doesn't hurt to ask, but there might be
we might have already thought of it and we couldn't do it. But until you ask me, I don't know what the answer is. So don't be shy about that. Or if you're, you know, wanting to buy something you see on the channel, please address that privately. That's not for making, you don't watch a car salesman necessarily want to work the deal on camera. They won't knowingly and willfully typically agree to that. They want to keep it private, because whatever deal they give to you, then everybody's going to want the same deal. And the fact of the matter is, the business is going to make more money off of some people than others, and they don't want the word to get out where they're going to make less money. It's not in their best interest. In much the same way, if I'm making a deal to somebody, it might have something to do with the history of that person. Maybe they've been very generous to us and we're willing to sell something at a loss. And if you don't know that and you hear about it, you might want the same thing for the same price when you haven't got that history with us. And then you might think it's not fair. So for all of these reasons, there's certain things that are just better off private. And that's what the email address is for, including sometimes people looking for technical help. And it can take quite an investment of time to help some people with certain problems. And it would consume the entire show and monopolize it, ignoring everybody else. And that's not cool. So this is our happy medium. And it's up to your discretion, obviously, but that's what it's intended for. showcasecreate@gmail.com. And Sable the cat will moderate everything. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us for today. Tomorrow is Members Only Mondays. That's all those people in green. They can only see and participate in those videos indefinitely. They'll never, those videos and those live chats do not go public. So there's a lot more informality. Sometimes there's exclusive content that you just don't know what it is if you're not a member. Could be a repair, could be an upgrade, could be a whatever. But it's very informal. It's more like just a group of friends hanging out. And not that my videos are the most formal, but trust me, when they're public and worldwide like this, there's a different pressure on me of scrutiny than there is on hanging out with a bunch of friends. And so that is one of the benefits of membership, is because of those people we can make these videos. And so because of those people, we'll make some videos only for them. And if you'd like to join us and support us here, we'd love to have you. And you can go back and see all the previous members only videos you may have missed. It also opens up our archive of older content, which is, it's not evergreen. You know what I mean? Like, the content doesn't really apply much these days to show you how to build a socket, like a Z170 based motherboard. There's not much call for it. So it's kind of a specialty nostalgia to go back and look at the old content. It doesn't really hold much value today as being helpful or educational outside of the history of it. So all of our videos going all the way back to 2009, a lot of those have been made members only. We call it the archive. If the video is more than 12 months old, it often goes into the archive. We're just trying to figure out a way that we can make some money and keep making videos. And that way is through member support. So for all the members out there, thank you so much for continuing your support here so we can continue to make the videos. And for everybody else who watches the videos and appreciates them, we enjoy having you here. Absolutely. And just understand that the Monday videos aren't for you, they're for the members. When it comes to the follow-up on this, that'll be Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. Right now, I don't know. And I think we have some content lined up for Friday, and that's as far as the schedule goes for right now. But things are subject to change because I've got some feelers out for some folks that I'd like to invite onto the show. And depending on their availability, we'll certainly do what we can to accommodate their schedule. And my schedule's, you know, I can move it around. So there might be some other things coming up this week. I want there to be. Okay, it's not like I don't want to do it. I absolutely want to, but this is what I'm dealing with right now. And you know, welcome to being a content creator. It's it looks easy, and it was easy. It's getting really hard. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you for watching, members. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock Pacific time. Until then, bye for now.